silence over the room. Good evening. I'd like to reconvene the public session. We'll have a report of actions taken in closed session.
Yes.
City Attorney?
Yeah, the City Council considered those matters listed on the closed session agenda, and there are no reportable actions.
Thank you, John. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Catherine Alleman and the Invocation by Pastor Michelle.
Hello, hello. Happy July. Is it July? It's still July, right? It's still July. This is like the longest summer ever, I think. Jeremiah 29:11. I know lots of you know it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not calamity, to give you a future and a hope. And for my special cowboys and cowgirls in the room, I have it from the simplified Cowboy version. I know the trail I want you to ride, says the Lord. This trail doesn't lead to a desert, but to green grass. In fact, it's the future that you prayed for. Let's pray. Gracious, eternal God, indeed your plans are good. Thank you that you care about us and our plans and the details of our lives. We invite you tonight to lead and bless this meeting. Thank you for these leaders, for their commitment and care to this community. Thank you for all who are here tonight to make their world a better place. May every word spoken, every thought expressed, bring people together. Thank you, dear Lord, for all you are doing here. May God bless America, and God bless Horsetown, USA. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, let's move into presentations. We're going to start with the Community Spirit Award. Would that be you, Robin?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present the Community Spirit Award for this quarter. So if those folks in the audience that have been on the NHA Trail Committee can come up to the front and join me, please. Fill in right here. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, so get out of the way for a picture real quick. All right, so as we think about community and community spirit and volunteerism, one of the things that makes Norco super unique are our horse trails. And I still can remember, it seems like forever ago, but it probably wasn't, where we were talking about our trails and the budgets for our trails. And I specifically remember Mr. Blaze saying, you guys have given me $12,000 for the year to maintain all of the trails in this town. And how far we've come since that day, right, and what we can do. But even back then, there was this small but mighty group that would go around and replace posts, replace broken rails, and even today, with all the funds that are spent on trails now in this community, you still have this small dedicated group of volunteers that goes out to replace those remaining wooden posts and wooden rails, to put caps on the new trail fencing as they disappear as well. And it really is a labor of love that these folks give up their Saturday mornings, their afternoons, and their time. If any of you are familiar those wooden posts are in with concrete. They are not easy to get out. It is quite a chore and usually involves them asking a neighboring resident for a hose to get some water to drag that out to get the work done. And so, you know, foundationally, our trails, our parks, and our open space, as Kevin always says, are foundational to what this community is built on. And so I'm just so thankful for the work that this small but mighty group of folks behind me does on a regular basis, and most of us probably don't even know that they're out there doing it. So I just wanted to show appreciation for everything that they do to keep Norco, Norco.
No, I never have anything to say. First of all, as chairman of the committee, I'm really appreciative of the city's recognition for this presentation. We cannot do this without the community support, and as you can see, we've got a great group of people here that do go out and help and do it. And just so you guys have an idea of what gets accomplished, you know that the city spends somewhere probably $12, $14 a foot just to remove the old trail fencing. When we have the ability, if it's in certain areas, we've actually gone out and removed almost a half a mile of the old wood fencing prior to them putting in the vinyl fencing. We've got members that have forklifts and things like that, so it really gets done. But what I really want to get at is there are some people in our group, and I would encourage all of you to do the same thing, is if you just want to go out on a Saturday morning and go for a walk around your block, take a trash bag and pick up trash off of the trail. Those are little simple things that you can do to help maintain our community. We have replaced hundreds and hundreds of rails and quite a few posts. As a matter of fact, if anybody needs any posts or rails, let me know. I know Chad over here, people have called him and he's referred them to me, because when we took out that fencing, anything that was usable, we've salvaged, and that's what we put back in, so there is no cost to the city for those types of repairs. And we have also, in the last, 4 or 5 years since we started with the vinyl fencing, I think we have replaced something like 200 of the plastic caps. But again, that's all done with the volunteers here and you guys. So anything you can do, let us know. Thank you.
Congratulations. Well deserved. Okay, next I'm going to call upon Community Services Director Anglin. I would like you to come with your incredible staff, please. And I'm going to read part of the proclamation. This is Parks Make Life Better month. And I'm just going to read part of this because there's over 200 whereases. Whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activity. Whereas the California Park and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now, therefore, I, Greg Newton, Mayor of the City of Norco, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month in the City of Norco, and recognize the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, and facilities for the health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all residents. And I'd like my colleagues to join me for Michelle's speech.
Council. Proclamation. Would you like to say a few words?
First and foremost, I would like to thank City Council's leadership and support to Recreation and Community Services. Secondly, I want to thank an incredible team of staff that we have here who are dedicated stewards of the community. And the goal and the mission for us is to increase the quality of life for all the people that we do serve. And that's not just for our residents, it's for our coworkers, it's for our businesses, it's for the people who visit this town. So we are truly blessed to be able to serve, and I couldn't think of a better occupation to be in. So thank you, staff, and please extend that to the rest of the staff that aren't here with us tonight. And I'd like to introduce, this is Superintendent Alejandro Gonzalez, and this is Supervisor Gage Zettelmeyer with us tonight. So thank you. Picture up front? Picture up front?
Absolutely. Your call.
Okay, we'll move into City Council reports on regional boards, and I'll call upon Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer to start council communications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report.
Good report.
Did not attend any regional board meetings since the last time we were here, and if you'd like to see all the other things that I've been doing, you can check my social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
So I think the most important, and the mayor may touch on this, we met with Congressman Calvert's staff on the RTRP lines, the lines they want to run through the riverbed. Our hope is that they underground them. We have some time. The Riverside City Council has made, they want to examine it. I think there's some real hope. I think that Congressman Calvert may be the key to getting funding to underground that particular project. So I think we made some real headway. We also attended a meeting with Sheriff Chad Bianco, and again, I'll let the mayor kind of touch on that as he organized it, but it was a very positive meeting, and I hope all of our deputies and our sergeants and everybody, I hope their ears were ringing, because we said great things about our deputies. We love our police force. And the most important meeting, though, that I attended was a Western Regional Council of Governments Admin and Finance a meeting in which we basically oversee the executive committee. And we had some presentations from the Eastern and Western Municipal Water District, which I can see we have Water Commissioner Fazia is sitting back there. There she is. We're out of water. Good to see you. Yeah. We're out of water. But the problem is, state of California is basically telling us that we have to build too many homes, but they're not doing anything to create infrastructure, reservoirs, tunnels, things that we need to supply water to people. We're just being expected, like so many things, just do it and forget what the real consequences are. They're talking about getting rid of ornamental grasses. They're talking about getting rid of buffers, and we don't know where that's going to stop. So I know Eastern and Western are looking literally to create a coalition to go to Sacramento in some form or fashion, either through lobbying or suing, to create a way to force them to do infrastructure. And so what I'm going to be doing is having our area rep is Laura Ralphton, and I'm hoping we can have her in the next couple of weeks, actually, or within a month, to talk about the water dilemma that we have. Ironically, Norco has done an incredible job with water. It's not going to save us. In fact, we will probably be penalized for it, because other cities, we're all going to have to, in order to build houses, we're all going to have to do without. And it really is, it's such a bizarre situation that it's almost indescribable. Second part is, I don't know if council got this, but there was a brief discussion from the California Alliance of Local Electors. And on Sunday, July 24th at 4 p.m., there's going to be a meeting in which they are trying to align as many cities as possible to sue the HCD, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development. As many people probably are not aware of, the HCD has been weaponized. They have unprecedented power to force communities to build things that are completely unwise in many communities' views. I'm a great proponent of local control. We know best what's for our community, and of course now local control is vilified as NIMBYs and all these kind of crazy things. I'm hoping that at the end of this meeting, I'm going to make a suggestion that we at least examine becoming a part of that lawsuit. Other than that, I hope all of you get to the George Ingalls Veterans Memorial Veterans Memorial. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the new Gold Star Family Memorial, I was there this morning. It is absolutely stunning. And I have to give a shout out to Councilman Hoffman, because he is the person that has really, as the chair of the committee, he has really steered the beauty of that site with the different planting and stuff. And I want to give a huge shout out to Amanda and her staff, and of course to Michelle. This team effort has created a memorial that is unlike any other memorial, I believe, in the entire state of California. So kudos to you, Ted, and to Michelle, and to Amanda. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Kevin, if I may, I'd like to inject, if you wanted to add any more about our meeting with Calvert and the high transmission lines. But the other thing with our, and the city manager was involved in all these meetings. Since you're the better storyteller, I'd like you to talk about what happened with Sheriff Bianco that told what the real Norco is. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, the sheriff, by the way, did you know the sheriff writes tickets? I was shocked. Can you imagine me? He wrote 2 of them before he met with us. Can you imagine being pulled over and say, "Hi, I'm the sheriff. You were speeding." What do you say? No, I wasn't. I mean, and he's got this truck that looks totally like a ninja car. But when he turns the lights on, it's like a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, he writes several tickets every day, and one of his pet peeves is that people he's writing tickets for feel like they're the only ones on the road. And he just says people have become they become very, very selfish. Anyway, I think what Greg is referring to is that he went on and on about what a unique community we are, and we are a unique community. One of the things that people, we recently selected a city manager, and the people came and said, Norco knows who you are. You know what you are. You know. Most cities are still trying to figure out what they are. But he said, this is a community that basically, if all the police left, we'd defend ourselves. That's what you're referring to, right?
That and the 2 little girls.
Yeah.
You tell it.
No, I'm going to let you tell it.
Oh, okay. All right. Moving on.
Oh,
Ted.
all right.
I'll tell it. Okay. Ted, go ahead.
No, you're continuity, you're killing it.
Oh.
Killing it. Everybody's got to know now.
Keep them on edge. So we're going through all of this, and as Kevin said,
Oh,
about
the Girl Scouts.
duh. That's why Kevin no longer plays pro ball, because they'd serve it up with mustard on him and he'd swing and miss. So, anyways, as we're talking about all of this, these two cutest little Girl Scouts come walking up to our table, and they have a box of cookies, and they hand it to the sheriff. And the card on it says, "To our heroes,"
Thank
which
you.
is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's
and
Norco.
yeah, that was exact. That said it all right there. Ted.
See, we needed to hear that. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. A bunch of stuff. I'm going to tell you another good place, and it's starting to get on, really, and this has to do with, I know, Alejandra and Michelle. The Norco Seniors and Pets Breakfast at the Senior Center, the second Saturday. It's increasing attendance. That's the most people I've seen there for a long time. And you can't get a better breakfast there for $3. Okay? So $3, then play bingo if you want to after that. But I want to make sure I get my plug for that. Kevin already talked about the water. I'm the SAPA and OWA representative. It's a fancy thing for the Senator River water. Part of our program is under Proposition 1, which you guys all pay for out of your taxes every year. There are projects that help with water, and the big push right now is reclaim water and recycle water. There in our area, what includes all of SAPA, there's 24 projects being finalized for receiving this money. It's over $20 million worth of money to get through there. It's a very good thing. It's not going to save our drought program, but these are programs that have come through. The Riverside County Transportation Commission, I don't know how many people here, just show me, raise a hand. You go from LA and you want to go out to the desert, you want to go out to Indio, Coachella, right? Didn't you wish you had a train to go there? Seriously, I mean, you don't want to get in a car at $5, $6 gallon gas. This project has been going on since the mid-90s, the formation of this group. The last week, we actually approved the rail line, additional rail line to be used. Now, we're not going to use freight lines. We're going to start building a line that's going to be, people can take the train all the way from LA station, go through Riverside, down Orange County, come up through Riverside, and then head down to the desert. So you may not think about it, but if you're a Stagecoach or a Coachella Music Fest fan, in 10 years, you'll be appreciated of it. So it's been a long time coming. The people on the eastern side of the county are really happy this is going on. So it's been a long time coming. And then the other thing that I'm going to toot our horn with Michelle and her staff. We have the Day of the Cowboy coming up on Saturday, and you got to be there because we're going to have fun, and it's going to be their first rodeo in a long time since Horse Week. And please get your tickets early, save you some money. That's very important. And then I'll swing back to this one. Kevin and I, we went to Seal Beach, even though he tried to drive us down to Fallbrook. I go, Kevin, where are you going? He's going south on the 15. Oh, we're going to Seal Beach. Oh, you're going the wrong way, dude. So, but we got there in time, and it was a lovely ceremony, and I say that with all honesty. We got to meet the good people there. The captain of AIA was there. Great guy. Remembered us, and it's going to be fun.
He's the NAVC captain.
Huh? Yeah, he's the captain here. But we look for a lot of fun. The new commander there really wants to come out to Norco and see what we have. She's impressed with us as a little city. So we're the little city that can.
She's agreed to be our December 7th speaker.
See, Pearl Harbor. There you go. You can't keep them quiet. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ted. And on July 7th, I attended the special Board of Directors meeting for the Chino Basin Desalt Authority. And that will conclude council communications. We'll move into the consent calendar, and I'll call upon the city clerk.
All items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Prior to the motion to consider any action by the presiding governmental body, any public comments on any of the consent items will be heard. There will be no separate action unless members of the governmental body or the audience request specific items be removed from the consent calendars. Items removed from the consent calendar will be separately considered under item 3 of the agenda.
Thank you, Dana. Does any council member wish to pull any items?
2E and 2F.
Dana, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments for this item.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve the rest.
Second.
Please vote.
It shows.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2E. Kevin?
So just very quickly, let me find it. So that's the new observation request, National Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Month. I'm fully in support of this. I think it's an issue that's very timely. As we know, because we're very connected to the Norco College, which has a really wonderful veterans organization and building now. We're seeing that quite a bit more and more, and I'm really proud of the fact that Norco is acknowledging this. And with that, I make a motion to approve.
Please vote. Sorry, Robin. Okay. Mayor Newton?
He broke it.
Should it be melting like this?
Go ahead and I'll just
keep
take
pushing
your verbal vote. Council.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grubmeyer?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2F, Kevin?
And 2F, I just want to thank you, Michelle. As you know, I've been working on that place for 22 years since I was a commissioner, 26 years. And it finally is looking really sharp, beautiful. The kids are having a great time. The programming is wonderful. But just the space, what you've done, put together, please thank your staff for me. For me, that's a huge victory, that gymnasium. Quite honestly, as you know, I would have torn it down 10 years ago and built a new one. And what you've been able to do with it is remarkable. And of course, we got to give Brian credit, but it's under your watch, so I'm going to give you 100% of the credit. So thank you. That's all I have. I make a motion to approve.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to public comments, I'll call upon the city clerk.
This is the time when persons wishing to address the presiding governmental body regarding matters not on the agenda may be heard. Please submit a speaker card to the meeting clerk. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the governmental body's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. The governmental bodies shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comments. And our first speaker is Bob Fry.
Good evening, Bob. Good.
Well, I'm
cut this thing real short because I think.
Do you want to pull the microphone in your direction?
Okay.
Great,
Is
thank
better?
you.
Better? Okay. Yeah. I had a long presentation to go way more than 3 minutes, but I think it might just be easier to give you guys some handouts, make it very simple of where I went, why I did it, and you guys have issues in this city, and I know you're working on them, but if you had taken care of some of these many years ago when this moratorium went into effect, I would be in the fix I'm in right now. Okay? And I've already talked to Chad about it a couple times. We talked about it and had some emails. But if you guys, I know you're going in the right direction, okay? But you need to get some things fixed out there. And if I'm going to be the guinea pig and I'm doing what I have to do, there's many other people out there that have issues too. So let me just hand some of this stuff out. You guys want to, can I hand these things out to you guys?
If you'd hand it to the clerk, please.
Give you. Okay, one. You get 5 people up there, right? 1, 2, 3. There's 5 of those. And I gotta get them some more when you come back here. Okay, if I'm. You guys review, you can look at them, throw them away, dwell over them. It's up to you. But, yeah, maybe we'll look at them real quick and then they maybe have some questions on me. I don't want to go into this thing any further. I've already gone into it. I got a phone feeling, like I said, it's not going to, after listening what's going on here this morning or this afternoon, I'm not going to get any reprieve anyway, so. Anybody have any questions on me? If not, I'll. The issues, and now I'm being required to remove what I did. Now, basically, originally I did that because I wasn't getting very much help from the city. I called numerous times about, and I'm on a downgrade, as you can see, the horse trail washing out. Okay, so I called the city a number of times. They would come out, half-assed repairs. The guys didn't even bring out a tamper when they would come out and throw DG on the area that's rutted. So finally I started looking around, doing a survey around the area, looking to see, well, look at all the things that are out here right now, like on the big hand that you have there. You guys have that current stuff out there right now in your area, okay? And apparently there was a moratorium on 6/15/2011 went into play, in effect, okay? I didn't even know about that. Didn't even know I needed to require even a permit. You see all this stuff out there right now. I talked to a contractor, said, you don't need a permit. We can put those in for you. So he was doing his work for me already, so I trusted him. I actually knew the family. So basically, I went down to a to a killer yard, had some pavers custom made, ordered them, took 5 months to get them, put them in, and then I get a citation 2 weeks later in the mail. Because somebody complained about what I did. In addition to all that, I spent months interviewing writers in the area about their issues. And they have issues too out there. So, and I asked them told them what I was going to do. And they said, hey, it's better than running out horse trail, better than soft areas, better than mushy areas. So, that's my case. You guys, wherever you want to go with it, I'm sure you'll be contacting me on a resolution or whatever.
Well, thank you for your comments and your information. I'm sure we'll review it. We just can't comment or answer to you at this time.
Right. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And our next speaker is Bob Froscheiser.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
There, Mr. Mayor and Council. 2 or 3 meetings ago, I was here praising a city employee for a good job. This one, not as easy. I have 2 water meters. A 3/4 meter feeds the house, and a 1 inch that feeds the backyard out to what was the pasture. To save water and to save money, I got rid of all the grass in the backyard. It's DG, rock, and succulent. Looks like Scottsdale, Arizona. I only use the water to rinse off the pool deck and the patio. I use about 6 units, about $17 a month. I have a $71 meter charge. Comes out to about $850 a year. I thought, well, I'll just get rid of the meter, tie it into 3/4 out front. Everything's good. Just turn off, pull the meter. I was told at City Hall to pull the meter, it has to be abandoned at the main at my expense. And then I thought, well, I have to rethink this. So looking into it, the expense is between $4,000 and $5,000. So I thought there has to be another way to do this. One way is put a plug in the angle meter stop. Another way is a locking device that covers the whole angle meter stop, can't be tampered with. Another way is convert my box to a blow-off. The box is at the exact low point of Corona Avenue, about 200 feet north of Native Dancer. And it's out of the horse trails. I have some pictures. Horses don't walk, they don't step over it, it's out of the way. It's up against my property line. It hasn't been stepped on a dozen times since 1972 when I moved there as a kid. To abandon it means draining the line. My neighbors and I were out of water for a good part of the day in the heat, and then cut off the lateral, do everything they have to do. Before they sample, they're gonna flush a bunch of water down the storm drain. We're in a drought. This isn't a water main break. I don't see why this job has to mean shut the water main down. The city is clear on, after the meter, it's you, the customer, do what you want. The meter towards the street is the city's. If you mess with it, damage it, you're responsible to pay for it. That's good. I'm fine with that. You know, a backhoe, a pick bar. They're also adamant, or they're clear about, to shut it off, don't you do it. Call us, we will turn the angle meter stop off. When you get finished with your job, fix the leak, replace the ball valve, whatever, call us, we will turn it back on for you. Okay. So I don't understand the part of the customer is expected to pay for work being done on the city's system when we haven't damaged anything, or I haven't damaged anything. I just want a meter pulled. So my two choices were, when I left City Hall, were $71 a month, $850 a year, or $5,000, have it abandoned. I think there's other options to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Andy, you can reach out to the resident. Okay. We had the discussion earlier.
Our next speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie.
I'd like to thank you for recognizing the NHA Trails Committee tonight. They're kind of unsung heroes, and sometimes when we're out there working, they think we're court workers. Whatever, you know. Anyway, it was fun. It's time to get your fare buttons. So be sure you get your fare buttons. I happen to have a few tonight that I'd be happy to sell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
And our last speaker card is R.J. Spiegel.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. My name is R.J. Spiegel, and thank you for letting me take the time to speak today. Today I'll be talking about my Bar Mitzvah project. I'll be hosting a candlelight vigil for my Bar Mitzvah project to honor our 13 soldiers who died in Kabul airport last August. As part of being a Jewish boy, when I turn 13 next year in March, I will be having my bar mitzvah. A bar mitzvah means to be a son of the commandments, and a bat mitzvah means to be a daughter of the commandments. I'll be fulfilling the role of being a young man, a gentleman, and to be a good citizen of our community and the world. A bar mitzvah project is a project that needs to be done in our community. So I took time to think about it, and I thought what I wanted to do, and I thought this would be the perfect time to honor our fallen soldiers. I will be holding this event at the George Ingles Plaza in Norco, California. The event will start at 6 p.m., and we hope for everyone to be in their seats at 5:50, so we can get started. We will have the candle vigil approximately at 7:45, if everything goes smoothly. But we will keep notifying people as we come closer. I would like the support from the Norco City Council to put on this event. As I get permission from other organizations, we will still make improvements for this event. This event is open to everyone. I came up with this idea because our fallen soldiers were not honored enough, and we can always do more to honor them. So I decided to make this my mitzvah project or a good deed project. If you have any questions, I have more I can share. I'm open to any suggestions.
Thank you.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, we'll move into legislative matters. And once again, I'll call upon the city clerk.
No new evidence will be heard from the public as the public hearing has closed regarding items listed.
So this is item 5A, ordinance number 1083, second reading. And this is your report? No. Or do you just want a motion on it, John? Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1083, second reading, amending Norco Municipal Code Title 18 zoning, adding Chapter 1870 Inclusionary Housing Program, Zone Code Amendment 2022-03.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussion action items. Once again, I'll call upon the city clerk.
Order presentation for discussion items. 1, staff report presentation. 2, council questions of staff. 3, public comment. 4, council discussion and action.
Okay, this is item 6A, City Manager Employment Agreement between the City of Norco and Lori Sassoon, and amendment of fiscal year 2022-2023 management.
Fairly short presentation. As we're all aware, Mr. Okoro sitting next to me, while he's been with the city since July 2013.
That's mine.
Yep.
God, that's nobody. Mr. Okoro has served as city manager for the city since July of 2013, and has decided that now is the time for him to retire. His retirement date is effective September 1, 2022, and after the city's gone through a very extensive research, including hiring a consultant to assist, has elected to employ Lori Sassoon as city manager effective August 29th, 2022. You will see the terms and conditions of her employment in the attached contract, as well as the annual salary set forth in Resolution 2022-56, which is a requirement of CalPERS. Obviously, you won't have any questions of me, but if you'd like to make other comments, feel free.
Do we have any Council questions of staff? Seeing none. Dana, do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back for council discussion and action.
Mr. Mayor, a little bit about the process. We had some incredible people apply for this position. I mean, incredible people, and it was amazing the people that want to work in our city. And I'm very, very hopeful that we picked the cream of an amazing crop. And I personally am very happy, and I see her back there. And I just welcome her to the city of Norco. She's got to get a cowboy hat and some boots. Bonnie, you've got to get her on a horse.
I already told her that. I met her before the meeting, and I said it was a requirement.
Right. And you know, you have you don't just have big boots to fill in Andy, but Andy looks incredible in a cowboy hat. If he's smart, he will continue to wear that cowboy hat. Do you own a pickup truck? Oh, got to get a pickup truck, but it's got to be an electric one, I guess. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Oh, God.
Hey, those Ford Lightnings look pretty good. I know I was on the list for one. We spent a lot of time in interviews, going through resumes, meeting in closed session, having interviews again. So just really want to express our confidence in Lori's abilities, and really, thank our current city manager for his service and his dedication, and really looking forward to continuing to move our city forward with some, new perspective, new ideas, and really looking forward to the future. So she was here on Friday. I think it speaks a lot to her. She was at our concert in the park. So those of you who were there, many of you already met her. And we're really looking forward to having her be a part of our community and help us continue to move forward.
Robin, any comments? Ted, comments?
I'm going to reiterate what the other council members said. I also want to thank, for those who didn't know, we hired a firm to do the recruitment. The headhunter firm is what they're called. And I'm telling you, the guy, I appreciate Andy, your recommendation for that firm. As Kevin said, they brought us a bunch of well-qualified candidates, a bunch of people that it made it a difficult decision. We sat in these interviews, and I was impressed with the amount of people that came all out the area that applied. And it just shows you, as I said, we're a good little city, and we don't have the issues that some of the big cities have, and that's a good thing. So, and I compliment our staff and actually our residents for not making it that kind of city that gets crazy, where we all have a good choice. And so, Lori, welcome. And Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Okay. I'm going to make a recommendation to adopt resolution number 2022-56.
And you need to approve the employment contract.
Would you like me to read the whole thing?
The employment contract, or just the action?
The whole recommendation.
You can you've made a motion on the resolution. Just act on the resolution, and then when you
Okay.
come back, motion on the employment contract.
Please vote on the resolution. Motion passes unanimous.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the city manager employment agreement between the city of Norco and Lori Sassoon. And I probably should also add that this should amend the fiscal year 2022-23 management salary resolution also.
That's what you did. That's what the
Okay,
resolution.
so that one's in there. We're good. All right.
Second.
Please vote. Mayor Newton? Okay. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So with that, this is kind of bittersweet, but with the approval of the employment agreement done, our manager, Ms. Lori Sassoon, if you step forward, please. Congratulations. Lori brings 30 years of extensive municipal leadership experience to the city of Norco. Most recently, she has served as Deputy City Manager of Administrative Services with the City of Rancho Cucamonga since 2012, where she has led departments including finance, human resources, innovation and technology, procurement, and special districts administration. Prior to joining the City of Rancho Cucamonga, Ms. Sassoon served as City Manager for the City of Villa Park and is an Assistant City Manager for the City of San Bernardino. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Cal State Pomona and a Master of Arts in Public Administration from California State University, San Bernardino. Ms. Sassoon is also a credentialed City Manager of the International City County Management Association. Ms. Sassoon is a highly respected and accomplished government professional. The Norco City Council has full confidence in her ability to lead our organization as we embrace challenges and pursue opportunities to better our community and protect our large lot animal keeping lifestyle. Welcome, Lori. Would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you so much, Mayor, for the kind welcome. And maybe I'll go this way. I feel first, I just want to thank the Mayor and Council for the honor of working and being your next city manager. Like you said, you had a lot of great candidates. That's why people apply for jobs in communities like this. So thank you. And I also want to say I'm not sure what size boots Andy wears, but I know they're large because to honor your legacy here of your long time here. Very quickly, I just want to share one of my favorite stories is when President Kennedy cast a vision for the U.S. to put a man on the moon. And there's a story that goes that President went to the Space Center when they were working on that project, and he saw a young man sweeping the hallway at the space. You know, that's a testament to whatever our role is, whether you're the city manager or a staff person or a community volunteer or a child in our school district or a parent. We're all working together to fulfill the city's vision of creating an amazing community that's family friendly, that is a destination that supports an incredible animal keeping lifestyle and rural experience in Southern California. And I'm just excited to be part of that team to help fulfill that vision. So I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you.
Next item is kind of interesting dynamic. So item 6B, approval of disbanding the Economic Development Advisory Council.
The number one action is to adopt resolution 2022-50. If you recall, we brought that issue to you at the last city council. The adoption of this resolution will formally this evening is to nominate 2 council members to serve on the newly formed city managers economic development working group. If you recall, we had a discussion on this issue last week, or last 2 weeks actually, and at that time there were some confusions regarding the application of the Brown Act to that newly created Economic Development Working Group. And since that time I have gone back and had some discussions with the city attorney to review the issue, and the fact that this working group is a working group that is formed by the city manager makes it possible for the city council to appoint or nominate 2 members without triggering the Brown Act, making these meetings, future meetings, a public meeting. So the city attorney is in agreement with that, and so what we're asking you this evening to do—
I'm never going to interrupt again.
So what we're asking you to do this evening is to nominate 2 members of the city council to serve on this newly formed economic development working group that is led by the city manager.
Thank you, Andy. Any council questions for staff? Seeing none. Dana, do we have any public comment?
I have no public speaker cards for this item, Mayor.
Thank you. Bring this back for council discussion and action.
I would like to serve on this committee if possible.
Well, moving forward, I kind of want to go back to Andy on this. My understanding, this is going to just be more broader topics, right? More boardroom type of thinking with this working committee. Is that our anticipation?
That is correct. This is a working group. It's going to involve a lot of education in terms of what economic development for the city. Is going to involve a lot of brainstorming to talk about what the city needs in terms of attracting economic development, what type of economic development projects we need here in the city, and to evaluate those and make recommendations not to the city council, but to the city manager, and to obviously it's a resource group to the city manager and staff, as well as community members. Make sure that we are approaching economic development from a collaborative perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ted.
Yeah. You're done. I would like to also be on this committee, and the reason being is with the completion of the Hamner Bridge, with the potential for what's going to go down Silver Lakes for the World Cup games in 2026, plus the Olympics in 2028, we need to be ready for any economic development we get for our city, as we are the corridor for that area, with what's going on into transportation and the new looks at transportation being on the RCTC, along with the RTA. We're in a good position, and we need to make sure we continue on that strengths of getting this in our position, and that's why I'd like to be on the Economic Development Committee. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add one other item. One of the things we, as a requirement, commitment, and that commitment requires minimum. So for a participant coming from planning commission, as an example, we recommend that that commissioner have at least 2 years. I will just bring that up for the city council to consider as you ponder on who you want to serve on this working group. Again, the reason for that is going to some time to get up to speed in terms of what is expected and what the work is about and the education piece of it. So why we made that recommendation when we the first time. So that as you contemplate on this working group.
Could you shed some more light, Andy, on kind of the timeline for when this group would actually kind of be starting? You know, you're retiring. We're going to have a transition period here. Would it be safe to say that it's going to be starting immediately, or that there's going to be a few months? And when we talk about this timeline, as a member of the committee who came up with that recommendation, which is exactly why we came up with it, we wanted to make sure we don't have turnover so that we're able to really get good work done. But thinking through that, now that we're looking at actually putting those rules into practice, you know, would it make sense? Is it kind of a delay where we could appoint a couple council members later in the year where everyone would have 2 years left on their term? Or is this something that we need to start sooner?
Yeah, so the strategy is to, as soon as possible, once those vacant or positions are filled, then the working group can start as soon as possible. Like you pointed out, I do have limited time here, so but within the next 30 days, I suspect that group will be.
But in that, I was just to say, in any case with any appointment, if the term isn't fulfilled, the council at the time then would just reappoint someone to fulfill that term.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This was encourage that commitment of
Robin?
Well, and I think as we look at this in the working group, some things to consider again, our foundation of a rural lifestyle and what that looks like in terms of economic development and how we can enhance our rural environment through economic development and really play to some of those things that we've been working on with the small plot agriculture and agricultural businesses and some of those things that we've been talking about that again will are likely already here in our community and working and bringing those folks on board as well. So, you know, I think there's a tendency sometimes when we look at economic development about bringing in these big stores and these big chains where, you know, maybe with Norco, it's not going to look like that, you know, depending on what the committee looks at and what the thought processes are. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there as well.
I served on the subcommittee along with Councilmember Hoffman and just wanted to, one of the reasons that we talked about when we looked at this last time was kind of coming to things from a fresh perspective and kind of starting to think outside of the box and review what we've done and seeing is it still up to date with where we want to go. You know, plans change and so with that, you know, if my time and talents would be helpful on the committee, I'd be happy to serve as well, depending on, you know, the consensus of my colleagues.
Craig, if I may.
Yeah, Ted.
I'm going to go back to the 2-year thing because no matter how we look at this first year, this first appointment, you just eliminated 2/5 of the council that would be eligible, yourself and Ms. Bash, because the election. So I'm just saying this would be a very difficult thing to do it. And then if you wait later on, then you're going to end up in come November or December, you just eliminated 3/5 of the council that couldn't apply because they'd only have 2 years left if on the rotation. So it's the 2-year thing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but there is on planning. But with council, we have a changeover. We could have a changeover every 4 years in our group. So I'm trying to stay consistent in that thing too. I want us to think about that when you decide where these appointments start and how we do it the first year, the first time. So.
Well,
I'm going to jump in. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, please.
I would just say I'm more concerned about the mission statement and how we're going to proceed that way than the council members, and I was going to make a recommendation and a motion. But Kevin, go ahead if you.
No, I was just going to say that I have to concur. I mean, I'm one of the people that may or may not get reelected in November. There's a concern, but at the same time, this is actually something I served on this Economic Development Committee, and a lot of things came out of it. And I actually stepped aside and did not serve on the other committee because I thought somebody else should. But I do think that a business person, somebody who has had experience pushing programs and things in the city of Norco successfully, we need to have that drive needs to be found on this committee. That's just all I have to say. Thanks. but whatever the pleasure of the council.
I'm going to make a motion to nominate the two subcommittee members we had, Councilmember Hoffman, Councilmember Elman.
Second.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Item 6C, historic mitigation measures for the Palomino Business Park project. Andy?
Mr. Mayor, Bill Wolfman, who's our consultant, would.
Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Glad to be here to present this to you. What we're going to be looking at is the topic of mitigation of the demolition of the Eisen Egg Ranch in relation to the Palomino Business Park. At the time I wrote this, the Palomino Business Park was proposed. As we all know, it's actually under construction between Pacific Avenue, Mountain Avenue, 1st Street and 2nd Street. It was approved by the City Council on June 17th, 2020. And the Norco Ranch was a significant part of Norco's heritage and that of the nation. The Egg Ranch was developed by Harry and Hilda Eisen, World War II Holocaust survivors. They built the ranch into one of the 10 largest egg processing businesses in the United States, and they also made a significant contribution to Norco's incorporation in 1964. On January 24th, 2020, the Historic Preservation Commission reviewed two options for the preservation of the Egg Ranch. One was a public option, the other was a private option. The idea of both of these was to preserve the residence, the garage, and the egg processing building for future generations. The Historic Preservation Commission recommended the adoption of the public option, which would have required the developer to deed the land to Norco and improve the site as a museum complex. The council acknowledged the importance of the Egg Ranch in Norco's heritage. However, it recommended that other ways be developed to honor that heritage. The mitigation measures approved by the Historic Preservation Commission are designed to address these other ways. In approving the demolition, the council made a finding of overriding considerations. CEQA requires that the demolition of an historic resource cannot be mitigated to a level of less than significant. However, it must be mitigated to the greatest extent possible. The Historic Preservation Commission developed 11 mitigation measures on August 5th, 2020. Mitigation Measure 1 is to fund a 2,500 square foot expansion of the history room. For any of you who have been over to the history room, you know that they're really cramped for space. Most of the space is taken up by storage and accessioning of artifacts and other items coming into the collection. Here's a draft floor plan that the commission developed, showing the addition being in green, the existing building being in red, and the green circle being the location of an Eisen exhibit. This is what a permanent, the other mitigation measure 2 is to fund the permanent and portable Eisen exhibits. And this is an example of a permanent exhibit. This is an example of a portable exhibit. Mitigation measure 3 is to donate archaeological materials to the history room. For the most part, ground disturbance has already taken place in that location, so the likelihood of finding any underground resources is very unlikely. Mitigation measure 4 is to fund a granite monument. I can get this thing to point. Yeah. The monument would be this circle area here, and the monument would be pointed toward a mural, which is a later topic of a mitigation measure. This is what a monument might look like honoring the Eisens. The other mitigation measure 5 is to relocate an overhead track system to the museum, and this has actually been accomplished, so it's no longer in play. Mitigation measure 6 is to fund a 5,000 square foot historical mural. This is an example of what an historical mural might look like. Here's another example, and here's a third example. Mitigation measure 7 is to fund an historic context statement. We already know a lot about the Eisens. but there's a lot we don't know. So this would be funding a more in-depth look at the Eisens and their history. We know that Harry Eisen was incarcerated at Auschwitz in Poland, and Harry was subjugated to slave labor. Hilda Eisen was incarcerated in a Jewish ghetto, and the Jewish ghettos served as way stations to concentration camps. Fortunately, she was able to escape the Jewish ghetto, and she joined the Jewish partisan resistance. Harry Eisen was sent on a death march, at which all camp residents were going to be killed at the end of the march. Fortunately, Harry managed to escape from the death march. Harry and Hilda met up in Uzbeka, where they grew up, only to find the village was basically destroyed by World War II. So they decided to emigrate to the United States via the Displaced Persons Act. They first settled in East Los Angeles, where Harry worked for the Pioneer Meat Market, and Hilda began to raise chickens for eggs to sell to neighbors and neighboring businesses. Eventually, they decided to expand on their egg operation, and they moved to Arcadia. In Arcadia, unfortunately, zoning regulations forced them to move again. They moved to Norco, where they were welcomed because Norco was a very heavily populated poultry community. They built the Norco Ranch into one of the 10 largest egg processing businesses in the United States. Mitigation Measure 8 is for the development of the HAB survey. The HAB survey is an historic American building survey, the purpose of which is to document a resource that's going to be demolished. This has already been accomplished. They include site plans, floor plans, black and white photographs, and a report containing all that information. Mitigation Measure 9 is to name the business park Norco Ranch Business Park. Mitigation Measure 10 is to name the main entry street Harry Eisen Way and the cross street Hilda Eisen Court. There has been some development in this regard recently. The Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission took up the matter of street names. It turned out there isn't going to be a cross street that's going to have a name. However, there will be a name for the entry street, and the commission is going to be presenting to the City Council recommendations regarding this to honor the Eisens in the name of that entry street. Mitigation Measure 11 is the implementation of the mitigation measures will be subject to historic preservation review and City Council approval. The estimated cost of the mitigation measures, the history room expansion, we're estimating at $375,000 at $150 per square foot for a 2,500 square foot addition. The historical room exhibits would cost up to $15,000 for both permanent and portable exhibits. The interpretive monument, we estimated $80,000 plus $10,000 for landscaping, hitching post, water fountain, and a bench. The mural, we estimated $100,000 for at $20 a square foot for a 5,000 square foot mural. The context statement would cost about $10,000 for a 50-page report. As I indicated, the HABS report is already completed. The monument sign and street signs would be at no cost to the developer because those are already going to be a part of the project improvements. The Eisens are an important part of Norco's heritage and that of the nation. Their history with the Holocaust is compelling. Their accomplishment of building one of the 10 largest egg processing businesses in the nation is highly significant. Their role in the incorporation of Norco is a key component to this important part of Norco's heritage. The loss of Norco's heritage of the Eisen complex is substantial and deserves to be appropriately mitigated. The mitigation measures recommended by the Historic Preservation Commission have been carefully formulated to meet this goal. They are designed to both honor the Eisens and educate current and future generations about the significant part played by the Eisens in Norco heritage. They're also designed to educate the public about the Holocaust and what can be accomplished within the economic and personal freedoms of the United States of America, even by people of most humble beginnings. Recommendation is not what's on the board. The recommendation is actually that the council consider the historic mitigation measures recommended by the Historic Preservation Commission and determine how to proceed. And that concludes the presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Any council members have questions of staff? Or the consultant?
Sure, I have a couple. In the staff report, some of the measures were the interpretive monument and the mural. to be placed on the property of the Palomino Business Park project.
Yes.
Has there been any, is there pre-approval for those? Are those
Not at this
approved?
point, no.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin? Anything? Okay.
I have a question on the expansion of the historical rooms at the community center, kind of along the same lines as Catherine. Has any of that been discussed, or are we looking at, here is our kind of wish list, and we're looking to get council approval on some or all of the items on the wish list, and then we shall proceed with the procedures and items needed to accomplish those goals?
Yeah, I think the most important mitigation measures are the history room expansion, the monument, the mural, and the names of the development and the streets coming into the development. Those are the most important ones.
Okay, so I guess to rephrase the question, have any steps been taken to put a process in place to implement those should council give direction to do so?
No, we're waiting for your direction. We'll move forward when that happens.
Thank you.
I can add to that. If you recall, during the capital improvement program budget this last 2 months, I think a suggestion was made by Councilmember Bash to look at the potential expansion of the history room collection. I think staff has been working to schedule a meeting between Councilmember Bash and Mayor Newton to further discuss that issue. So that issue is still something that we are looking at.
Ted, you had any comments or questions of staff?
Yeah, I have referenced a couple of the mitigations. Have you had any discussion with the owners there, with Patrick at all, regarding the mural and the renaming of his park?
They're aware of the recommendations because the report would have been sent to them back when it was originally developed, but there hasn't been any discussions with them, no.
Okay, they're just aware that these things are being proposed.
Yes.
But we haven't got any feedback from them?
To some extent we did. If you recall, when we are going through the development agreement with Capital, they didn't want to get too involved in making these decisions. As far as placing any of this infrastructure or monuments or other items on their property, I think they are done of dealing with this issue. They made a public benefit contribution to the city. If the city is going to locate or do some of these mitigation measures, I think the city locations other than the property that is being.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is because they're asking for a mural on his building, and I mean these are the things that are sitting here in the staff report, and then the monument on the site where it was, and then the renaming. I mean, he's in business, and if you remember, one of our former council members was the one that suggested naming that Palomino as the horse activity. So I just asked if you got feedback from him. Thank you.
Let me clarify. I spoke to Patrick when we were doing the negotiations, and some of the money they were going to put forward was to go to some of these things, but I think it's since been sort of sent to other projects. But they are agreeable to naming the entrance off of Mountain, the Harry Eisen Way. They are also agreeable to placing a small plaque on the site so that if somebody were to visit, they would know what that site was. But as you know, the bigger portion is to fund a monument of some kind at the memorial commemorating the freedom fighters, which would actually have 5 names on it. So we do have that kind of thing. But I think to Robin's question, I think at this point, I mean, as I was primarily negotiating with Patrick, it was to fund some of these things, but some of that money's now been sent elsewhere. We were working at cross purposes. And so I think that the expansion at the community center, I think it's something that we definitely need to do. I'm not so certain we should attach it to the building, because my understanding that kicks into play quite a few ADA issues. But the point is we need to do something to create storage, because as I think I've told you guys in the past, we have an extraordinary collection. And one of the things that I think is going to be important, we set a precedent in the state of California by placing an entire city in a historic district. And the information that supports the historic district is in that room. And so I think that whether we make it part of the master plan or whether we go ahead and figure out a way to do a building, one of the things I suggested to Amanda, and I know Bill doesn't agree with this because we've spoken, would be to build a building that is modeled after one of the buildings that was located in the old manufacturing district along Detroit Street. Detroit, of course, was named because Rex Clark was from Detroit and he wanted that to be his industrial center. But it was a metal building essentially, and I thought maybe you create something like that. I think it's something that we probably need to plan, though, in context to the entire park. We need to look at the Scout House. We need to look at the uses for the community center. But I think it's something that's really important that we need to do and find the funding for. For myself, I would love to make the community center more of a community center. I would love to figure out a way to build a new building in place of the old Scout House and, you know, maybe move our Chamber of Commerce into that area or something. But I think that we have two approaches. One, we just build a building because we need it, or two, we try to plan that entire complex.
Thank you, Kevin. Going back to questions of staff, Bill, these budgetary numbers that, how are they developed to get to almost $600,000?
They were based on internet research, what it costs to do these kinds of things. Typically, I looked at a number of different sources, and these numbers seem to be pretty consistent.
And how long ago was that search done?
Well, that's part of the problem. The mitigation measures were actually developed 2 years ago.
Okay.
And probably if we brought them before you then, things would be more in play, which they're not. We're kind of like behind the 8 ball now. But
so these are 2-year-old costs that you're
yes.
projecting. Okay. Thank you for your report.
Okay.
Dana, do we have any?
I have another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Catherine.
Yes. One other question. For the benefit of the public and all of us, Andy, could you clarify the public benefit and the money that was allocated to monuments that came from this project, and if it's been allocated or if it's in the special asset fund, what the amounts were, and what, if any, has been spent or earmarked or allocated?
So there were 3 pots of money that Caprock provided to the city. One was for the Gold Star, Blue Star monument. There was the Freedom Fighters monument also at Ingalls. And then there was a $2 million public benefit contribution that was deposited in the city's special asset revenue fund.
Also, that Kathy Azevedo was part of the 3.
That's correct. That was the Kathy Azevedo. I think they made another donation for that. But the $2 million that was deposited in the special asset revenue fund were not earmarked for a specific purpose. Okay. Since that those funds were deposited, the city has since allocated $1 million, not specifically from that pot of money, but from the fund itself, to begin the pre-funding for pension, unfunded pension liabilities. We established this pension rate stabilization fund, of which $4 million came from that fund.
Thank you, Andy.
Dana, do we have any public comments?
I have one speaker card, Teresa Edwards.
Good evening.
Mayor and Council. My name is Teresa Edwards. I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission. I've been on for 5 years. I was part of the move to the community center from that old trailer that sat behind the chamber for whoever knows how long. We moved all our historical artifacts from there 5 years ago into the auditorium, and it's been great so far. We're very, very proud of it. I actually don't know where to begin. There's so many things going through my mind right now because this has been a 2-year process. When it came up in the beginning in 2020, we worked very hard on it. Put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into our planning and our recommendations and our dreaming and everything for Norco. We love history. We love Norco. Right now I'm kind of conflicted over some of the things that I've been hearing. I'm going to go into that too much, although I know we had $2 million for a public benefit, and to hear that it's going to other things is extremely upsetting. We had lots of time to prepare our recommendations and everything to the council over the Palomino project, the Egg Ranch. Significant historical loss is what we witnessed there, and if you drive by, you'll see it's. To be honest, speaking for myself, maybe for others on the commission, we're not really supposed to talk to each other, are we? We've been really disappointed in the process. After we submitted all our stuff and a lot of thought and worked really hard, we were basically put on the back burner. Mitigation recommendations should have been seen a long time ago. Every time Bill wanted to do the presentation, phoned, it was canceled, but shoved under the rug for a long time. Felt that nobody was listening to us. Technically, if you ask my opinion, I don't think they did. One thing that really upsets me was that the mitigation was properly, especially in the archaeological aspect of this project. As Bill just said a few minutes ago, that ground was dug up and there was no archaeological investigation, which is shameful. I'd like to go ahead and recommendations for the historic, which is the public benefit as possible. I am really a museum person. I'd like to maybe consider adding to the Heritage Room, or some say build a new building, and I would really love to see an actual museum in our town, and that goes to destination and everything. So I guess I'll wrap it up. I know we're proud of the Riley's Gym, but let's make our history just as beautiful as Riley's Gym. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. And bring it back to council for any further discussion. Robin?
I guess I'd like to start by maybe clarifying when we go through the processes and public benefit money is given, it's not designated per se to a specific item when public benefit is given. Like Andy said before, there was money specifically given by Caprock for the Spirit of Norco. There was money specifically given for Blue Star, Gold Star. There was money specifically given for those 3 items. When we talk about public benefit, that money really is at the discretion of the city council to spend in any means that they see fit to provide a public benefit to the entire community. So I think that's important to understand, that it wasn't a $2 million check to historic preservation in our community. That's not the way that was laid out, I don't think. And so I just wanted to provide some clarification in that regards. And then also that $2 million has not been spent. There's other money in the special asset fund. So I'll start with that. The next thing I'd like to kind of just again give my thoughts on, as we move forward, history is 100% important and valuable. I think I mentioned before, my personal opinion is I drive through areas like Chino and parts of Eastvale, and I see like a cow on a public storage building. I don't feel that's paying heritage or homage to what was in Eastvale when I was growing up. I think it's cheap, and I don't like it. Or street names that potentially go along with, you know, a ranch that might have been there back in the day, because new residents to that community have no idea why there's a cow on the side of the public storage building in Eastvale. And so I want whatever is done to be meaningful and impactful. So an idea of a museum where people are going to learn history and look at artifacts and understand what was truly there is so much more valuable, in my opinion, than a painting or a monument at a business park that people are going to drive by every day and not even take a look at. So that would, again, where I would want to see the focus is putting somewhere where people who have a passion for agriculture and the Holocaust and Norco and all of those things can go and be educated and learn about it. I think there's a unique opportunity with some of the other things that are going on. We talk about Norco being a destination all the time for rodeos and horses and this and that. If we think about the concept of Norco being a destination for agritourism and people visiting farms, and then that farm connection, we go to a museum where there's history of the egg ranch and all of these other things, I just see where all of this can be tied together in like this synergistic way to make, again, Norco a destination where it's just not, you know, the one-man band of the horse show. And again, love me some horses, but we need to diversify and show all of these other wonderful things about Norco that people just have no idea about. And so as I look at the list of potential mitigations, I would really like to see something that's cohesive and well thought out and more in line with a museum and a destination for this particular item. And so again, whether that's at the community center kind of area or another place in town, again, I'm not too picky about that, because I really do foresee where Norco will at some point in time be on the agritourism site where people will find us that way. Maybe it will be listed on some historical websites as well to go see Norco for this. And so, you know, for me, location in a specific spot is not as important as making a place that's meaningful and can bring people together based on their interest to this common kind of Norco theme. So that would be my preference.
Thank you, Robin. Ted? Any comments?
Yeah, I do. You say it so well. I hate following you, but Robin made some good points. And the thing about a sign at that location, first thing I think about is when I worked in San Jacinto, there's a marker in the middle of a field out on the western part of San Jacinto. It says, this is the site of the landing of the first Russian Arctic blah, blah, middle of the field. Nobody knows it's there. Or driving into Pomona on the back side, you go by the site of the Yorba slaughterhouse. that sits off of Pomona Rincon Road. Most of you probably don't even know it's over there. But there is a little sign. Nobody cares. It's there. Nobody goes there and visits it. She's got a point. You want a central location is you put it at a museum where people come and go. Your young children, schools, daycare centers, they're going to go to a spot. They look for a spot. We have a lot of people that do choice education, and at time you go through. They're looking for things. Homeschoolers, they're looking for events to go to, places to go. You'll learn history. It's very important that we teach our young people history, because otherwise they're going to repeat our failures. I'm for, when you look at the mitigation area, I'm for with Kevin. I would love to see a building adjacent to up at the community center that houses more of our history up there. These numbers are way low. I mean, just looking at them, they're scary. I wish they were that way, but they're not. Look what we're going to have to spend to go for the replacement of the 4-H and pole barn up there. These numbers are barely scratching the surface. So, but I'm with Kevin, is that we develop a museum, a nice place that people come to, and if we're going to mitigate this, that's where this stuff goes, where people can come and they can see it. I'm not for painting murals and stuff like that, as you said. It's just, it loses its effect, and it just doesn't have the hold. So, but I'll go for and support some kind of a museum structure that we can actually make a good place for people to go. Thank you.
Catherine, any further comments?
Yes, I want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission for their work. I can see the time that it took to put into this. I appreciate, coming and speaking about how hard that you've worked on this. I know that it's hard sometimes when we have groups that do so much work and it comes forward and here we're at this level and we have to look at this really big picture and answer to everybody in terms of what the funds get used for. Definitely want to express my support for honoring the Eisens, their legacy and their role in Norco's history. I don't think any of us would say that that's something that we shouldn't recognize, that we shouldn't honor, and that we shouldn't find a way to celebrate in our community. I want to echo some of the other comments from my council members, but we've been talking about this master plan at the community center. And so for me, when I look at what we want to do to make our community better, this is the same discussion we had with the splash pad. We all agreed that we wanted to put a splash pad in. That's something else that the community has wanted. Instead of just saying, we're going to put the splash pad here, we said, well, let's put some more thought into it. Let's make sure we're going to do it right. Let's not spend however much money to put it in a park and then decide later, well, we really should have done it this way, or we really should have put it here. We really should have also improved this at the time. Let's come up with a master plan for the park and decide what to do. And the same for the community center. So I see that as this. We need that vision of what do we want the community center to look like that incorporates all of the different community groups that we want to be involved and use there. And, we've been talking around, too, about where can we get our demonstration farm? How can we get EAT? We have all of these different pieces of the puzzle, as Robin said, and I think we need that big picture. Even though the need is now, it behooves us to have the plan, and even though it takes longer, it's that saying, go slow to go fast. We need to get everyone on the same page so that we can, use the funds to really do something special. And there are other cities that have, in Chino, they have their old schoolhouse museum that does field trips and really cool stuff that I've gone to. And we can look at how does this work in other communities? How do they do their museums? They have a preservation group and volunteers that are running it, because we can only go so far, too, with the city and looking at what funds do we have, but what can we put forth to leverage to make that a reality. And I think that's part of that master plan that is coming along, right, Andy? They're working on it. It's being worked on right now. It's just not happening as fast as we'd like, which happens often in government. But that is in place. We've started that process. Not to put you on the spot, but it's happening, just not as fast as we'd like.
Kevin?
So it sounds like we kind of have a direction. It's funny, you talk about a monument in the middle of a field. There was a monument that we chased down out of EDAC. And that's where we first heard about it. I got a letter when I was still serving on EDAC, in which we tried to find a plaque with 6 names of people that had been killed during World War II. And we scoured the city, and it was in plain sight. And that is actually what led to the creation of the George A. Ingalls Veterans Memorial Plaza, which also came out of EDAC. And so it's wonderful to hear my colleagues talking about the vision and things. And to the committee, don't be so focused on that $2 million. The money for this thing is going to come from different places. It's just going to. If council makes the commitment to create something, and I do concur that we need to master plan it, but I think I'm hearing some pretty interesting some ideas that I think are pretty cool. Just so you know, in terms of the Eisens, one of the things, because Ted and I sit on that particular committee, the Veterans Committee, we're actually looking, one of the things we're kicking around, it's not set in stone yet, but we're looking at modeling. The Eisens actually have a stone in Poland where they lived, and it has all the names of the Eisens on it. What we're thinking of doing is maybe having that stone and putting the name on that and actually having it at the Veterans Memorial. It's something that Ted, I think, feels strongly, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but feels strongly about, because people will see it. As to Robin's point, they will see it. In terms of the names and stuff, I'll talk to Patrick. I think he's agreeable to it. The small plaque was something that just in case somebody was going by, but the bigger plaque that we had in mind, or the commemoration, was actually at the George A. Ingalls Veterans Memorial. One of the other things we've kicked around is Norco has an incredible military history. I mean, an incredible military history. I've been taking stuff over that is unbelievable. And we've talked about maybe doing a smaller something near the Veterans Memorial, in which, you know, we had, people don't realize, but during World War II, you had 150,000 soldiers, sailors, and Marines in this area. You had Camp Hahn, Camp Anza, March Air Force Base, the Desert Training Center with Patton, and you had the Naval Hospital. They don't even know. And then over in Corona, you had, during World War I, you had a huge contingent, the 81st Division Battalion that used to come and go out of Camp Kearney. We have stuff from all of that, flags and photos, and those are all things that I think we want to share. And then we all have relatives that brought back stuff that they brought from the war, and we have a ton of Vietnam veterans that want to give stuff that they have, and I think we need to maybe think about creating a place like that. So what would be the next step, Mr. Mayor, in terms of, and by the way, just our own monument, our own memorial, forgive me, we're getting ready to train docents so that people can, when they know, first we don't want to forget who's on the wall, because that's what happened with those 6 names and that little plaque. We're creating a book in which people can train to walk through our memorial and say, that's why this person's there, that's why this person's there, that's what we know about this person, that's where they lived in Norco. And so we're in the process of creating some, in line with what Robin's talking about. And then the second part, of course, is that the whole agricultural part, which again feeds to our heritage. The other thing I want to make a point of, you look at Riley Gym, we have thousands of photographs of kids playing at Riley Gym. That's a part of our history. That's a part of our fabric that we forget. Far more people participate in youth sports than anything else in the community. And I mean, Kinsey Hansen, she's going to the Olympics. I mean, last time we had 3 people went to the Olympics from Norco. I mean, that's a fabric and a part of our community. So that's the thing about history is we're always making history. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Just a couple of things. Councilmember Bash and myself and the city manager, we met with HDL, our consultant, and we started this market study, overall plan of how we're going to develop not only the community center, but looking at where we need to be when the bridge is completed, from Detroit down Hamner Avenue all the way to 5th Street. And what will that market study tell us? And we're running a little bit behind. I'm hoping we see something in the next month. But the overall development, I think, has to be tied with the community center. That it's whether we do a historical room expansion there, Chamber of Commerce, we have to have a center that will bring all different groups, and it would be that attraction. And we are working in that direction. The historical part, years ago, Kevin, you'll remember when we were dealing with the Alere group and some of the first troubles, and we met with, and this is what always hit home with me, is when we met with Harry Eisen, and he showed me the tattoo on his arm. And that just kind of shocking, but it registers as history and those type of things that need to be remembered. My motion on this agenda item is to receive and file.
Second.
In anticipation of waiting for the study that's being
Yes.
done. So maybe make that clear that we're receiving and file in anticipation of getting the study to be done on the property, with what appears to be a common goal that we want to create something that we'll be able to utilize as a museum in some form or fashion.
A community center.
A community center, yeah. All right.
As amended. Catherine.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you, Dana. Let's go ahead and take a little no more than 10-minute break. Yes, ma'am.
For public hearings, order of presentation for public hearing items. Number 1, staff report presentation. Number 2, council questions of staff. Number 3, open public hearing. Public comment will follow. 4, closed public hearing. 5, council discussion and action.
Thank you, Dana. This will be item 7A, entertainment permit 2022-01. Alma.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, this is agenda item 7A, which is entertainment permit 2022-01. And this is a request by Casamata, a request for approval to allow live entertainment at Casamata Mediterranean Grill located at 2395 Hamner Avenue, Unit J, located in the CG zone. The applicant is requesting approval of an entertainment permit, as noted, to allow live entertainment consisting of a disc jockey, live bands, one-man shows, live jazz guitar, belly dancing at the subject business, Casamata. The applicant is requesting approval of this low-intensive family entertainment as an added amenity for enjoyment by customers of the restaurant. The entertainment is proposed within the dining area of the existing restaurant. No increase in the parking spaces is required since the entertainment permit will be required to operate during the business hours of the restaurant, and that is a standalone operation. The staff report and the conditions as written are recommending that the entertainment follow the hours of operation for the restaurant, which current restaurant hours are Sunday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Friday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And staff recommendation as the conditions of approval are written is that the entertainment basically follow the hours of operation for the entertainment, and that condition is, it's noted in condition 4 and repeated again in condition 11. Within the Norco Municipal Code, there are certain findings that if those findings are made for denial of a permit, the findings are outlined in the Norco Municipal Code and also outlined in your staff report. I won't go into detail, but based on our staff's research and in communication with code enforcement in our sheriff's department, and of course background checks and all that good stuff, the findings for denial of the entertainment permit are not present, and as such a resolution for approval of the proposed entertainment has been attached to your staff report should the city council determine to approve the entertainment. And I'd like to point out that the applicant is in the audience should the council have any questions. And with that, I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Does council have any questions of staff?
I do.
Catherine?
Last year, on July 21st, 2021, we approved an entertainment permit for a different business, which was within 100 feet of some residences. What were the hours that we established for that entertainment permit that we approved last summer?
That was for the Felipe's or the Lazy Dog Inn, I believe. 7 days a week, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple. Alma, is this this permit, is this a long-term, 1 year? How long does this normally go? Or is it goes with the business?
It pretty much goes with the business, yes.
Okay, because we used to have them for a year, and they'd have to renew them every year. This isn't that one.
No, it's intended to run with the business.
Okay, that's just what I asked. And then we had no objections for any of the other current tenants in the area. The other businesses?
No, not at this time. The site was posted according to, and property owners within a 300-foot radius.
Okay, so none of the adjacent business owners or business in operations opposed?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. And then, I don't know who's doing the improvements there. Actually, it looks a lot better in there. I was over there Sunday, and I saw the pavers got put in there in the front, so whoever doing it, I appreciate that, because it was messy looking. So, that's it. Thank you.
Alma? On the, what's the basis for staff's recommendation on having the entertainment hours in conjunction with restaurant hours?
Well, the reason for that is, again, what it boils down to is the existing land use. and whether it's allowed. The existing land use obviously is a restaurant, and we want to make sure that it's the entertainment permit is consistent with the approved land use of a restaurant. If it extends beyond the restaurant hours, staff is concerned that it may kick it into a different type of venue other than what a restaurant is currently there, and that would bring about possibly a different type of land use. So that's a concern that staff had, and for that reason, our recommendation is that it be consistent with the hours of operation for the restaurant.
Maybe prevent some incidents that we had way back in the past that only Harper would remember. Okay. Restaurants and entertainment. I'll have to remind you, Kevin. Okay, if there's any other questions for staff, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Dana, do we have any cards?
Yes, we have one speaker card. Mike Swain.
Good evening.
Thank you, everyone. First, I want to thank the community of Norco, the mayor, the city council, and everyone that's here today to support us. It has been an honor to serve the community for past successful 8 years. I believe this time is a great opportunity to bring the entertainment license to the community and to the business. We would love to serve our city with all their celebration and have theirs be a spot, or have this Kazam as a spot they can come and enjoy our authentic fresh Mediterranean food and entertainment. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have no further public comment.
Thank you, Dana. Close the public hearing. Bring it back for council discussion and action. Kevin?
I'm going to support this. Mike's a good guy. You still live in Norco, right? Yeah, he's Norconian, trying to build a business in Norco, and he'll do it right. So I will be supporting this.
Myself as well, I asked that question. I just wanted to look at, in terms of parity and what we've done in the past for other like businesses, what were the hours that we established with the permits that we've approved. So I know this is discussion, but is there any difference that between the zoning and the type of business that kind of made it where that prior restaurant was approved till midnight versus the staff recommendation here until 11?
It basically followed the hours of operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be appropriate to ask a question to the applicant? Yes? No?
Probably not, since we closed the public hearing. Yeah. You want me to reopen it? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and reopen the public hearing.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask then, in terms of the hours, were you planning on changing the hours of operation with the entertainment, or if you could just clarify the hours of operation and what was planned if the permit is approved?
No, not for now, but I had heard about this problem with other restaurant. Probably is different. We don't have alcohol. We're like more strictly like just like Mediterranean food with hookah, but there's no alcohol or anything else.
So the hours would, because it says that you asked for it to be approved until 1:30 a.m.
I thought just on the weekend, just for the longest, in case like a New Year, or maybe like sometime, like some people, they wanna do a baptism party, birthday. Yeah, I didn't know like how to work it out. That's what I thought, maybe till 1 just max. But whatever you guys approve, I'm with it.
Okay, so that with that thinking would just be if there was like a special event where the restaurant was open after hours.
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So don't go away then. You're accepting staff's recommendation that the entertainment hours coincide with the restaurant hours. That's acceptable to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that'd be fine. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you again.
go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for discussion and action. So Alma, I have a question for you. Is there a avenue that the applicant could use, let's say, as he mentioned, like for New Year's Eve, if he wanted to stay open a couple hours earlier? Would that be something like a little minor special event permit, or how could we do an adder for special occasions if he wanted to stay open a couple extra hours?
We can do it under the premise of a special event permit. We could do that.
Okay.
Or you could.
There'd be a mechanism that we could.
Yes, yes,
work with
or yes, we can do it with a
Okay.
special event permit. Or of course, you can amend the resolution at your discretion.
I'm fine with leaving it with staff's recommendation, so. Any other council discussion?
I just have one. You know, we had earlier, there was a lot of discussion when the hookah lounge came up, and I remember.
That was fun.
Yeah, Higgins was awesome. That
was fun.
I never heard him talk so much.
Except he wanted to put different things into the hookah pipes.
Yeah, I know, but you think about, we're always afraid of changes and things like that, and actually it's done very well, and things, what all was the scary things didn't happen, and some of the businesses that we've had with these entertainment permits, you know, for the most part, we've been pretty, the business owners have been pretty good, and we have the exceptions, but you know, he did well with the hookah lounge, and he played by the rules, and so I'm like Kevin, I'm kind of in support of this thing. Who knows, maybe we get some different kind of entertainment and value in this thing. So, Mayor, do you want a motion on this for approval?
Yes.
I make a move to approve.
Please vote. Mayor Newton?
I did. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, item 7B. This is ordinance number 1084, first reading, City of Norco. This report be given by...
I'll introduce. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor
Thank you,
and
Michelle.
members of City Council, I'll keep this introduction brief. At the direction of City Council, staff created an ordinance to address dog housing standards to provide to the public guidance for proper dog care and best practices for optimal living conditions. Animal Control Superintendent Melvin Sparks III is here this evening to provide you an overview of this proposed ordinance for your consideration of approval.
Evening, Melvin.
Good evening.
You look good.
Well,
You look
thank
good, man.
Thank you very much.
Want everybody to recognize how good Melvin looks tonight. Okay.
I'm normally in my uniform.
That's
as you
right.
know, so I wanted
Sharp.
to be a little extra
You look
sticky
sharp.
for you guys. So thank you. Thank you very much. How do I do the? Oh. All right. I wanted to present to you that what one of the city council members, Mr. Bash, and then also one of our Parks and Rec commissioner have been working on, along with Michelle, my director. And this is for the dog care and housing standards. As we said, that it was directed to us to come up with something for our residents. And on April 2022, staff shared draft standards with the Parks and Rec Commission subcommittee and received input. June, we passed it on over to the city attorneys. And in July, we did the final proposal. And in here for the definition, we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about dog run and kennel, and then dog cage and crate. So the dog run and kennel is an enclosure structure for any kind, design, or used for the harboring and containment of a dog for a long period of time. And then the crate is just for a short period of time, which will allow the dog to stand, sit, and lay down and turn around. And this is for a short period of time. The dog kennel, as you see, is supposed to be structurally sound, kept clean, constructed in a manner to safely secure the dog in a clean area without any harmful edges. No tethering unless for a short period of time. This is to make sure the dog is in there and safe, no porous walls or floors. Indoor housing should be ventilated with adequate lighting and minimum safety requirements. And outdoor housing should be provided protection for the dog, such as cover and housing inside the dog run and protection. Now, this is definitely, I also want to make sure everybody know this is something for what I've seen throughout my 9 years here, and then years in Redondo Beach Police Department and LA County. A lot of housing and a lot of residents or owners, caretakers, will place their dog in a makeshift kennel, which is not safe for them. So this is to give the residents standards on how to properly care for their animal. It's not sitting there saying everybody must do this, but it's just only if they're going to contain their animal, they can't put it in a harmful area just for containment or tether it so it can hang itself or harm itself. Right here you'll see this is an example of what you do not do for a dog kennel or run, and what you are supposed to do. To the left, I actually see this quite a bit in my time here in Norco, and that's 9 years, and also like to educate people of how to move forward from having it in this location or this environment to having it in a secure area. The dog cage is pretty much the same thing as the dog kennel. All it is just a short time. So this is the same thing of make sure it's not tethered, non-porous floors, it's constructed in a manner. Wire floors must be covered. This is to protect the animal's paws, because as you know, sometimes if an animal moves it, jars it, they can get themselves stuck or injure themselves. So this is something to prevent the animal from injuring itself and protect it. Enough room to stand, sit, and turn around at will. As you see here, this was one of my cases that a dog was found in the condition that it was in, and so that's not anything what any animal should go through. So we also want to crack down on stuff like this to make sure that nobody puts the animal through this, but they also are educated to the part that they know that they have good resources and good help that they can get from their local animal control and in their city. The space, as you see, the space is just so the animal can, there is the size of what an animal should have, and this also goes with nursing animals too. So if it's a pup or anything, that they're supposed to have additional room for their pups so they can move around, get up, and adequately take care of their animals, or their young, I should say. As you see here on the left, there's a couple of King Charles Cavaliers that are in a cage that they should actually have something bigger to make sure that their size is accommodated. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see what it should look like for enough animals. Sanitation is just going with housing, must be cleaned daily, adequate water, food, bedding, and anything that's soiled must be removed. Animal food and garbage and waste also removed. Dust and drainage from the kennels and enclosures shall not create a nuisance for hazard at adjoining properties. As you see here, we have a lovely pit bull in a bad situation, and what it should be to the right hand side. This goes with general care, where the animal must be examined daily, kept groomed, medication, records as normal. Also follow the Norco Municipal Code, which is the first one is 5050, which is for the vaccination of rabies, and 20 is licensing. daily feed, proper nutrition, and make sure the animal is taken care of in the best way. There are some exclusions to the rules, and that is also what the animal owner or dog owner or caretaker is supposed to put in writing to the superintendent, and then what I would express to them or connect with them to let them know that if this is passed. Now, education, what we normally would do is, and what we will do is in-person communication, when we do community outreach events, patrolling through the neighborhoods, and responding to normal calls for service. We do digital communication platforms, including emails, newsletters, and social media. And we also have handouts at the shelter. If you have any questions, I am more than welcome to answer them.
Thank you, Melvin.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions of staff?
I do, just real quick. On our equine standards, we utilize UC Davis for their what they produce, and basically to cover up our square footage and the needs. There's nothing in your staff report that indicates where we use a university study? Did we use ASPC? Who did we use? Humane Society? Where did these numbers? I mean, you give us numbers and space requirements.
I use actually, I probably would say about 4 different counties and cities. One of them, I cannot remember exact name of it. I swear it was like County of Temecula, or not Temecula, I'm sorry, Tacoma. But I can get that for you. Another one was something from Corona, City of Corona, and Riverside County, and also Redlands.
And the reason I asked, Melvin, is because if we go through and there's any type of litigation about where these numbers came from, we should have not that you're not qualified to say that, but we should have some kind of a basis, a number, a reference that we utilize for coming up with this space requirement. And you put a lot of space requirement and just a housing requirement. There are some standards that are out there, and I would hope that we'd have something to fall back on, a major agency or something that would back those up, because we're asking people to, do this. And common sense is you will do it, but it's always nice to have that. Hey, this study was done by somebody at the UC system, some big dog place. So that's all I'm asking, is that we reference those things so we have those numbers to back them up. And then on that, I'm looking at some of their housing requirements, and you've been in here 9 years, you've been doing this. Is there any exemptions, or do we have any programs for low income or some of our seniors that aren't going to be able to afford some of those dog kennels? Do we have programs for that?
Yes. As I'm pretty sure some of you might not know, there's a lot of times if there is some residents that need assistance, I do have a donation account that the lovely residents of Norco have donated, and people that pass through the shelter, and I apply assistance to them. My goal is always to help them get on the right track and stay on that track with a little enforcement or without enforcement.
Okay, and then on my final one, I'll leave you. And that's the same thing with temporary. If you come up on these scenes, if it's not an animal cruelty situation, but somebody just needs more space for the dog, how long do you give them to do corrective?
What we do is we give them 15 days to make some significant improvement, and then we move forward from there. 9.9 out of 10 times they actually comply and go through it, and they make a great improvement, and we just extend it 15 days after that.
So we work with them
to
make sure we get them in compliance rather than time. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions of staff? Go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment?
We have one speaker card, Nellie Hatton.
Hi, Nellie.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off, I think this is a really excellent presentation. I think the Animal Control here does an excellent job. I just had a couple of clarifications on some ambiguous terminology of the no tethering for a short period of time. Somebody's short period of time could be 8 hours, somebody else's it could only be 3. I'm just concerned about some ambiguous natures of that terminology. The non-porous walls and floors, concrete is porous, so I think it either should be excluded or determined what those floor spaces should be or not be. And then, what was the adequate space terminology is being, I guess, proposed through Penal Code 597T, the California Penal Code, which in itself is very ambiguous. They do not describe or give a definition to an adequate exercise area in the California Penal Code. So I think that's something also that needs to be, I guess, given more definition to. And that was all of my comments for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nellie.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back for council discussion and action.
I'll make a comment at least on the tethering. What she was referring to is kind of the what you saw in the presentation as opposed to what the language says. The language with regard to tethering is no animal may be tethered as a means of caging, crating, unless for a short period of time. That's all you got on the presentation. For cleaning and or temporary purposes to correct fencing, housing, and or living arrangements, which is much more specific. I mean, you can't say it can't be more than an hour, but it has to be for that purpose.
Okay, and that would satisfy that. Do you or Melvin want to address the comment about flooring material, porous material? Can we do that?
Yes. Now, for that is what we're talking about is to drive away from wood or make sure that there's a concrete base or there's a plastic base, something that the animal we can actually clean, we can disinfect. Similar to what you will see at a shelter or at a pet place like Petco or something. It's just something that is non-porous that it can actually be sanitized and clean. As you know, if there is some disease in the grass, you can't disinfect that really, or dirt. So what that is, there's something to be placed down metal or concrete or plastic that it can actually be sanitized.
And the specific language is floors and walls must be constructed of non-porous materials, which is as far as the presentation, which may be easily cleaned and sanitized. And that's really the criteria.
And I'll agree with Nellie on the comment about, yes, concrete is porous, but there's only so many choices of material that are not porous. Exercise area.
That is already for if they have a yard, because this is just for a short period of containment, or even as you've seen in the pictures, enough room for the animal. If it's a dog kennel or /run, it's something for them to run back and forth. And as you see that the crate /cage is a temporary housing. Now for the exercise area, that is normally every yard has that. Is something for the animal to get out, move around. Even if the animal is in a dog /run/kennel, it still has enough room to run back and forth and stretch his legs.
Okay. Thank you, Melvin.
Thank you.
I had one more question, actually for John, and this is to Councilmember Hoffman's comments earlier. Is it really necessary that we cite different references where we
only in the
where we come up with these dimensions?
I mean, it's a good idea, but no, only in the context of if it were challenged, not showing that the ordinance is arbitrary and capricious.
Okay.
So that what Melvin indicated was the basis is fine to meet that test. Now, if there was other studies and the more the better, but again, the test really is arbitrary and capriciousness, not, it doesn't have to be scientifically accurate.
All right. Any further council discussion?
I do, but you go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
So anyway, there is an anonymous business person that will give, that's what he does. He will donate runs and kennels and stuff to seniors who need them, and has. So if Melvin, you know of somebody, just let me know. It's one of that little group, but it's all anonymous. So we do have that. In fact, there's actually 2 of them that will donate that kind of stuff. I really appreciate this, Melvin. Where this came from is that there was a dog who was kenneled, for want of a better word, 2 dogs in the heat and very small space, and it just really pissed me off. And so Melvin and Michelle, they got together and they immediately began to put together criteria to keep animals, and I really appreciate it. I don't have much use for folks that do what that guy was doing, and but he did correct it. Took a little pressure, you know, but I really appreciate what you've done here, and I think it's very in keeping with Horsetown, Norco, Animal Keeping USA. So thank you.
Catherine?
No, just want to echo those comments to thank everyone that worked on this ordinance. You know, it's definitely needed, and I think it will protect our animals and provide clarity and guidance for folks to know what are the expectations, right? Anytime we can be as clear as possible, it just helps us to educate folks and to make sure that everyone understands and we're all on the same page. So definitely appreciate this, and I'm hoping that there's a lot of education that will be happening, right, to help folks understand this so that, you know, they can take the best care of their pets that they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin? Ted?
Yeah, John made a comment. So, and only because if this gets challenged, and Melvin and his crew are out there, or anybody working in animal control, and somebody challenges, hey, I there's plenty of room for I have Tibetan Spaniels. I don't need the same kind of space that I have for if I have a Great Dane. And so the difference is, and that's why I was saying is, if we had a reference on this, and I agree with the ordinance, I agree that we need to, but I disagree with you, John, on the fact that you just can't do it without some kind of a basis for and having the knowledge. There are groups out there from AKC on up that have these recommendations, and that's what they are. But you should have something back.
But if there's a study out there that you can rely on, that would be good. Often some of what you're suggesting are kind of the same thing. It's that an expert said, well, you know, I think this is about the right size, and as long as it wasn't arbitrary and capricious, it's enforceable. With the city, that's really what it is. And Melvin looked at what other agencies have done, and based upon that, concluded that it's reasonable. But as I said, more is better. If there are actual studies that I don't know exactly how you'd study that. A little bit different with horses than it is with dogs, but if there are actual studies out there that support this, that would be helpful. If not so much in defending the ordinance, which I think is defensible as it's currently written and on the current basis, but for people that come in, just what you said, that hey, well, you know, I don't need that much space. Look, my dog's doing fine, and at least you can point to something, hand it to them, and say, here's the basis upon which what you're doing isn't fine.
And we've used that with the Davis study on the equine.
Yeah.
And that's what there somewhere it's done. And that's what, and I understand if he wants to refer to Riverside County Animal Control, but we should be referring that's where we got the source of information for numbers.
Yeah, like I said, my expectation is that, like Riverside County Animal Control, they adopted something that they thought was reasonable and not arbitrary and capricious, as opposed to doing an independent study. On the other hand, if there is an independent study out there that nobody has found at this point, using that would be terrific. I mean, it might, you know, who knows if there is in fact a study, it might say that what we're suggesting isn't large enough. You know, kind of, you know, what we've gone through with horses, and I know that you have some complaints about the the Davis study because of how it's.
We
structured.
used it.
Yeah.
That's why we did.
Yeah.
That's why we used it for, on when we had the animal control complaint, because that was there. That's my point. Is that if we're going to throw numbers out there, and we get challenged, we better have a source of that information and where it came from.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're asking what, and kind of Greg is to the question from the lawyer's point of view: is the ordinance defensible using these numbers based upon how it was developed? And the answer is legally yes. Is there a better way of doing it? And if we get more information which support these numbers, that's terrific, and it makes it less arbitrary and capricious than it would be otherwise.
Okay.
Melvin, good report. I'm going to make a recommendation to approve for the first reading ordinance 1084 approving code amendment 2022-03 and schedule the second reading for August 3rd, 2022.
Second.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, amending Norco Municipal Code Title 8 Animals to add Chapter 8.08 Dog Care and Housing Standards, Code Amendment 2022-03.
Please vote. Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, item 7C. This is the order in the continuation of the landscape maintenance districts. Amanda? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight we have agenda item 7C, ordering the continuation of the landscape maintenance districts and confirming a diagram and annual assessment levy for districts 1 through 5. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties here. The engineering reports and fiscal year 22-23 budget was provided by RKA Consulting Group. They work closely with the city to determine potential CIP projects in the districts and also evaluated the growing need for a Prop 218 hearing for LMDs 1, 2, and 3. Tonight we have Cody Howing, the assessment engineer, and we also have a special guest, Dominic Milano, that came in from Arizona. On June 16th, city staff and RKA Consulting Group held a meeting with the LMD residents to present the new budget and the associated engineering report. On July 6th, the Norco City Council adopted 5 resolutions to provide an annual levy assessment and set the public hearing for today's date, July 20th. I think it's important to note that landscape maintenance districts are not a separate entity of the city. They are a financing vehicle utilized when a development of a neighborhood is identified to specifically benefit by a certain improvement. Due to this special benefit, landowners in the identified area are assessed to pay the cost of the ongoing maintenance of such improvements and the continued maintenance. The 1972 Act allows a local agency to levy an annual assessment for the maintenance of the community improvements based on special benefit directly or indirectly to the property owners within the LMD. Our first LMD is LMD 1, which is Beezer Homes. On February 3rd, 1999, City Council adopted Landscape Maintenance District 1. It is comprised of 67 parcels. The district was formed to maintain landscaping along the river load frontage of the track. The estimated cost of the annual budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $25,326. That includes a $10,000 line item for a 218 hearing. The total amount to be assessed in fiscal year 22-23 from the 67 parcels is $11,667. The estimated unfunded needs for the district are $10,302. Reserves will be used to fund the deficit. It should be noted that the estimated fund balance as of June 30th, 2022 will only be $2,361. Cuts in maintenance or a 218 hearing will be necessary for fiscal year 23-24. LMD2 is the Western Pacific. On January 27, 2000, the City Council adopted Landscape Maintenance District 2, comprised of 219 accessible parcels. The district was formed to maintain the landscaping along Norco Hills Road and Hidden Valley, as well as selected interior slopes, wetlands, equestrian trails, parkway maintenance, and Norco Hills Park. The estimated cost of the annual budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $186,790. That includes, once again, a $10,000 line item for a 218 hearing. The total amount to be assessed in fiscal year 22-23 from the 219 parcels is $174,963. The estimated unfunded needs for this district is $98,000. It should be noted that the estimated fund balance as of June 30th, 2022 was in a deficit of $11,400. Cuts in maintenance or a 218 hearing will be necessary for fiscal year 23-24. The next LMD is LMD3 Centex. On June 6, 2001, City Council adopted Landscape Maintenance District 3, comprised of 82 parcels. The district was formed to maintain landscaping along Norco Hills Road and certain designated slopes within the district, as well as all equestrian trails in the development. The estimated cost of the annual budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $127,600, including, once again, an additional $10,000 line item for a 218 hearing. The total amount to be assessed in fiscal year 22-23 from the 82 parcels is $98,120. The estimated unfunded need for this district is $57,739. It should be noted that the estimated fund balance as of June 30th, 2022 is $6,064. Cuts in maintenance or a 218 hearing will be necessary for fiscal year 23-24 in this district. LMD4 is our largest LMD. On October 2nd, 2002, City Council adopted Landscape Maintenance District 4, Norco Ridge Ranch. It is comprised of 557 single-family developed lots, of which 25 lots only receive trail maintenance benefits, and 5 others are undeveloped, for a total of 562 parcels. The district was formed to maintain landscaping within certain slopes, irrigated and non-irrigated, fuel modification areas, parkway landscaping, equestrian trails, natural open space, wetlands, and Ridge Ranch Park. The estimated cost of the annual budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $549,000. The total amount to be assessed in fiscal year 22-23 from the 562 parcels is $494,000. The estimated surplus for district for LMD4 is $101,000. It should be noted that the estimated fund balance as of June 30th for this district was $419,000. We have one CIP project in the line items in the engineering report for this district, and that is a $20,000 drainage enhancement project for the trail system. Lastly, we have LMD 5. On January 7, 2004, City Council adopted Landscape District 5, Hawks Crest. It is comprised of 50 parcels. The district was formed to maintain certain exterior slopes, parkway landscaping, equestrian trails, and Hawks Crest Park. The estimated cost of the annual budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $139,000. The total amount to be assessed in fiscal year 22-23 from the 50 parcels is $65,000. The estimated surplus for the district is $68,912. It should be noted that the estimated fund balance as of June 30th was $138,441. We have 2 CIP projects scheduled for this current fiscal year. One is for a playground resurfacing, and the other is to replace trail fencing. Both projects total $75,000. Lastly, we have the assessment increase. The maximum annual maintenance assessment rates may increase each year by the CPI. The CPI ending in March 31st, 2022 was 10%. We added the 10% levy to 3 of the LMDs. It was the 3 LMDs that were in the deficit to get them closer to, it's not going to fix the problem, but it's going to get their deficit closer to where it needs to be. 4 and 5 were not in a deficit. They do have a surplus. So we levied them by 7% in order to keep up with landscape contractual maintenance cost. And there wasn't that need since there is a surplus in those 2 LMDs. Tonight, staff recommends that the members of City Council approve the preliminary engineer's report for the continuation of the landscape maintenance districts to guarantee that landscaping within each district will remain attractive and maintained. To do so, Council will need to adopt the attached resolutions. And we are here for any questions you may have about the engineering report or anything in this presentation tonight.
Thank you, Amanda. Good report. Does council have any questions of staff?
I have a couple questions, Mr. Mayor. Amanda, we set aside the $10,000 for Prop 218 hearing for District 2 and 3, correct?
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. Well, and I know Dominic's back there, and I don't know if John can chime in. The reason that 2 and 3 have a deficit is because it's hard to, 2 had a deficit because they structured it wrong when they first started. But 3's got a deficit now. Basically, the only reason 4 survives is because numbers. 2 and 3 don't have enough numbers. Because 2 and 3 share a common border, is it possible under the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972 to combine these 2 districts so that they could have a larger pool?
There may be an avenue there, and I would default, of course, to John if he's got any other opinions to add to it. But there's probably an avenue there to take care of it in similar fashion to a Prop 218 vote. However, I'm not sure a Prop 218 vote would be the most appropriate. However, the process would be similar.
Yeah, I mean, the answer, the bottom line answer is yes, you could combine the 2 districts. But the way of doing that is essentially the same way you would form them originally.
Correct. You have to have a meeting of all the residents to see.
And so you go through the entire analysis and do the benefit analysis based upon today. It wouldn't necessarily serve as an advantage to either district necessarily. I mean, if right now, if the districts are only supporting the improvements which are benefiting that district, then probably nothing would change. if there is, I suppose, some overlap that, and I don't know if there is or not, that both are getting benefits of mutual improvements, theoretically some of the assessments could change. Bottom line is the cost is still going to be the same, and it would be spread based upon the relative benefit to the total district parcels.
3 didn't have a problem as a deficit problem until recently. Or that it was pretty much there. It was expensive, but it was 3. 2 has always had a deficit because it's structured wrong. But I'm trying. It's just the numbers thing is what you spread that out more. That's why I'm asking if that's even feasible. If it's something that we
Again,
and
it's
staff and the
theoretic. I
residents
think
can discuss.
an engineer would have to maybe the engineers could do a preliminary analysis.
So a spread is an important detail, and so maybe that could help manage the per parcel assessment, but the budget will probably be similar unless we're discussing changing the scope of what it was originally formed to
And
be.
that is
certainly,
part of the problem with 2 is the scope was not done correctly.
True.
So my other question on that, and this goes back to our budget on this, when the city redid the landscaping and did some corrective measures along Norco Hills Road, and that who's picking up the tab on that as for future as you go through on your budgets? Are we throwing it back to LMD2, or who's doing that now?
Yes, so the maintenance is in this year's budget for LMD2 for that frontage.
Which has a deficit anyway.
Correct, yeah, and as you well know, the CIP project was taken up by City Council, if I recall correctly, but the annual maintenance is with
Going
it.
back to 2, and it's going to put it farther in the hole. All right. When we look at CIP projects for LMD4, was the idea on the Ridge Ranch Park, was there any talk about improving the ADA parking there and access for maintenance for the arena? You're looking at me with a question.
No, we didn't talk about that. We did talk about the arena and access to the arena. We did talk about some of those things, but nothing about ADA parking.
Well, because your ADA parking's out in the street, which is pathetic. I mean, to utilize it's scary. And that's what I'm saying is if we could look at that for a future CIP project, for those who don't know, for the council, to get to the arena over there for maintenance, you have to go over the trail that goes right next to Rattlesnake Rock, coming off there and then coming up and then take a real sharp down. It's not a very safe route for the equipment. That's why they don't take care of it. I'll be honest with you. That's why they don't. So I was just looking at that. And then, see, that was 2, 3. And then I got 2. I think those are all. No, that's it. Thank you.
Let me ask some clarification to that statement. We're not maintaining an arena because it's difficult to get to?
It's hard to get to.
And so we're using that for reason not to maintain it?
Brightview.
But we are maintaining it.
We are maintaining
Okay.
it. It's just a lot more labor intensive.
Any questions of staff at this point? Thank you. Going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Dana, do we have any
have
cards?
one speaker card. Matt Jefferson.
Good evening. Good to
Mr.
see you
Mayor,
again.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thanks, city staff, for all the work you've done. I don't consider myself kind of a fringe person or an eccentric or slightly deranged when I get this serious about the numbers, because you are ultimately, in the city council and the mayor, are responsible for the stewardship of the budget that is generated. I sent a letter today Hopefully you've gotten it. But I've got 5 points, so I'm not reading this from a letter as I did last time, and I'm cognizant of my time. But I will basically go over the 5 things I find unfair to LMD 5. First is we have an undue burden, an unfair burden for the observer fee. The observer fee has gone up 33% year over year. I have no complaint about that because I believe it's a full-time position now. The problem I have is we pay $272 per home per year, yet LMD 4, which 557 homes, pays $57 per home per year for the observer position. We can go on and on. That's just one example. There's no evidence of the $20,000 spent last year to correct drainage in our city park called Hawkscrest Park. It looks like it's a lot of grass. Maybe it was done, maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure. This next year we have a $75,000 plan to replace rubberized surface. We are one of the few city parks that still has a rubberized surface. Most of the other ones are not. Maybe 18 years ago when I moved there, it was a good decision. My family used it. We appreciated it. But I think at this point, if we're putting more money after bad money, I'm not sure if that's a correct use of that money. The last one is, we have a portable bathroom. The most popular use of that portable bathroom is by Brightview and Waste Management. And sometimes we get a homeless visitor. Not sure about that. Not sure where they live, but we've checked and reported that to the sheriff. But generally, we pay the highest amount per LMD, per house, in any of the 5 LMDs. And we have an unfair burden. And I have no problem with the price increase, but I have a problem with the numbers. The numbers are off by about $5,000 from budget to collected for both last year and the next fiscal year. So if I can do the numbers, I sure hope the city council will look at this, take it seriously, and also that the city staff will look and try to do the best job to spend the money. Again, not against the price increase, but I'm against the capricious kind of choice of where we spend our money for capital improvements without these 50 other people having their say. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion and action. Yes, Robin.
So this will be of staff. How are the capital improvement projects selected for the landscape maintenance districts?
They're selected if we see a problem or if something is reported and we have like an ongoing maintenance in a certain area where we see a problem, and then we document that and we say, you know what, this next fiscal year we need to get to that. This last year there were holes in the playground surfacing, and that was on the list where we knew that we might have an extra surplus. So, maybe this is the time right now to get these done in the parks.
Is there any mechanism in those landscape districts that have surplus for resident input on potential projects in their districts?
And this is when we do have the budget meetings like we had in June. We address all of these projects that we potentially want to have, and they address things with us as well. LMD4 brought up a lot of points that they wanted the decorative bollards to be replaced in their district. There is some line items for that, so we didn't use that so much as a capital improvement project, but we use their input on things that we are going to be working towards in making our LMD residents happy. There were some other things that they brought up that they want us to look into and do, and so we take that feedback and that input from our residents, and we try to implement it as much as we can into our CIP for the LMDs.
Okay, and so then the staff gathering that information, potentially implementing it, how would the residents of that LMD be made aware of those processes, or what is upcoming? Is it through the meeting the following year, or is there any other outreach or information to them?
There is outreach. Frank actually does reach out to them if if we have the tree planting. We worked with Chad on. If residents wanted new trees, they do reach out with letters to notify the LMDs of what's going on in certain areas. But for regular routine maintenance, that's not something that they're doing. But we do listen to the residents when they do have requests like that. But we will reach back out to individual residents as needed and as it comes up. But it's not something that we send out to the whole LMD about a list of maintenance items that we're working on.
Yeah, no, on the maintenance part, I get that. I think my focus would be more on the CIP projects and that side of things, as far as what they're selecting and how the residents are surveyed, and then how residents are then notified of what potential CIP projects are. So just, again, in my head, I'm thinking if residents are giving feedback on CIP stuff, specifically maybe a 5-year plan where they can kind of see what the potential list is, give some input, and then that list can be tweaked. Obviously, we're talking about a very small number because of the way the finances are in districts, but so thank you.
And we can do that, and we can do surveys. Some stuff, especially with this playground, it becomes a safety concern for us, so it is a top priority for us to get this replaced.
Ted?
In reference to the CIP, and I'm gonna, Matt did a good job this year in June. That was our first LMD meeting of everybody. But basically, with the RKA and Dominic sitting back there, that's where our CIP projects came from. And we got a feedback. And living up there is that whoever was the LMD inspector or the person, the observer, Bob Rash, used to bring those projects back and saying, and then him, and at that time, Todd, or prior to Hank, would go through and look, and they would determine, along with Dominic's staff, as to what CIP projects. A lot of the CIP projects had to do with drainage and water because of the hills, and projects like that. LMD2's never had any money to do CIP projects, and the other one was the fencing needs as they came through. So that's basically where most of the CIP projects have come from in the past, is through the staff and what they do. Citizens got to respond once a year in their spring meeting as to what was going on and their feedback. That's it.
Catherine?
No, I just want to echo Robin's comments. As much as we can hear from the residents and where they'd like to see that tax money that they're putting forward spent when there's money to be spent would be helpful, and I think it would be help to build some confidence in where that money's going.
Kevin?
Andy, the observer fee from LMD to LMD, or whoever can answer the question, can you explain the differential between what is being paid one LMD as opposed to another? In other words, the numbers that came up, 7,272 versus a much lesser amount.
So I can answer that. If
Yeah,
okay,
great.
So the LMDs obviously vary in size. I think that's.
I know
something that
the
we can
answer. I just wanted to get out there.
Okay, so that's something we can recognize, and as I think kind of came up earlier this evening, spread is a challenge.
Right.
So specific to some of the concerns brought up for LMD5. LMD5 has, a lesser number of parcels to spread, and if we take, it's not quite apples to apples, but a comparison to LMD1, who also has sort of a lower number of parcels to spread, you see a significant difference between the two, because LMD1 only has the frontage of that tract to maintain, whereas LMD5 has much more. And so that is the challenge, is the spread, and that's why the per unit cost is so significant when you're looking at the bottom line on that subject. So that if that helps clarify that subject. And so
The irony is Greg sat there and we watched all this go down and went, this is going to be interesting, and here we are trying to fix it. And then my other question is the portable bathroom, which just so you know, that was state of the art. And the whole purpose of that bathroom was the fact that it could all be replaced. So can we constructing a bathroom costs a lot of money, but can we at least maybe update the components of that particular porta potty? What that would cost? I mean, that's really why we built it. Was the modern way to? You were there. You remember. We all thought that was amazing. Is there a way that we can?
We can look into it. Yeah.
Can we? If you would get back to us on that. Thank you. That's all I have right now. I'll ask the other questions that Mr. Jefferson came up with later. Thank you.
Do you want to ask them now? Because there isn't a later.
Well, no, I'm pretty confident that we're going to look at those. The $5,000 that you were off, can we look into that question? Just find out what that's about. In fact, I'd like to hear maybe all of the 5 questions that he asked, if we can maybe get some answers to those to find out.
Absolutely. So, the observer fee, I think we've touched base.
Yeah, we
on,
got
so
that
we
one,
can
and
check
we
that
got
one
the
off.
porta potty. We'll take care of that. In fact, I mean, bathrooms are really expensive, and as we know, but maybe look at that one.
Yeah, I will. We can give that to Frank. Look at options of maybe fixing what we have out there or getting something new in there. We'll take a look at it.
And again, believe it or not, that was state of the art. We were real proud of that bathroom. I was there the day they cut the ribbon. So, and then the other 3 questions, no evidence, the questions that he has.
Yes. So, the $20,000 CIP project that was brought up, that was last year, my understanding is that project was not completed. And one thing that is a little buried in the numbers, in the sense, is that the projected end balance from the engineer's report from last year to the actuals for this fiscal year that's just passed or ended here is that it's $20,000 positive in that sense, and so the money did not disappear. What it does is then it goes into the CIP budget item for this year. So it's accounted for, and part of that is accumulating funds to complete the work that's necessary. So,
do we know why the project wasn't completed last year?
I can't speak to specifics on that. I know there was a transition and some staffing changes. So
because Bob Rash left, or who left?
Yeah, there was Bob Rash, and I just think that with Brian Petrie and everything, we had a lot of carryover projects this last year. So it was kind of, yeah.
And then you'll look up the 5,000. There's one more question, but I can't read my writing.
I think the question, at least as I jotted it down, was concerns with the $75,000 of CIP work. And so I think we've touched base on the park. The other piece of that to my recollection has not come up yet this evening, is that there is a line item for replacing the fence that fronts the trail fence, that fronts the project there off of the main frontage, so 5th in California, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's the other piece. So of course they add up significantly, but this LMD at least has one thing working for it, is it does have a healthy reserve so that we can attack these types of projects without driving the budget into some deficit, and still maintaining that reserve for any future expenses or unforeseen expenses, of course, as well. And then to touch base on the $5,000, we could sit here and go through the budget if that is what council's interested, but
if you could just get back to me if there's that discrepancy, I'd like to correct it somehow, whatever we do.
I don't think, we can certainly circle back and review the numbers on offline. Absolutely.
I guess the last comment that I have is that at some point, you know, I've now heard complaints that some people, they said, well, they voted for Measure R, and why is it that we are having to pay for fencing when the rest of the city is not paying for fencing? We hear those kind of comments. As we said 20 years ago when this all went down, these were not well put together, but they would not have been built without the LMDs. These homes, I mean, I was here, hundreds of people were here. John was probably here as a young 50-year-old, and there were promises made to the residents that this would never be a burden with the rest of the community. And that's why, you know, what you hope is Measure R funds go to other places in the cities. But that said, at some point, we're going to have to realistically look at that, because I think most of those people, except me and Greg, are all dead. And John, of course. And Andy was there too, I think. Weren't you there for? No, you got here in 2002. Yeah. So at some point, we're just gonna. We've already done that with Norco Hills Road. We've taken that over, which is a significant savings to that particular LMD. And but we're gonna have to look at that. We're gonna have to. Things change, and let's face it. Those LMDs were really badly put together. Not all of them, but they were just not well put together. So, anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just, because Kevin brought it up, I just want to check. And Michelle, if you have this information, China, the two bathrooms that I'm thinking of, the one at Hawks Crest and the one at Norco Hills, are actually porta potties, correct? Huh? Nice. So, when we did our ADA compliance review of those facilities, do you remember what the recommendation is?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can look it up and
And that's what I'm saying. If you and Amanda can get together and find out what the recommendations are for that on those restrooms that were there, we may find that someone's going to have to pay for the ADA improvements on those to make them in compliance. I can't see where a porta potties today could be used as a permanent structure for ADA compliant. And then we'd have to look at who funds that.
And we also have Clark Field that's like that as well.
Well, but we're talking LMDs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are two. The ones at Norco Hills Park is in LMD2. And I know it's just a porta potty. And then the Hawks Crest, we have a permanent facility at the Ridge Ranch in 4. But we just have a lousy parking spot for ADA. So those are things that need to be looked at and addressed as we go through in the coming years, and hopefully within the next year or two. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I was just going to say to that, Ted, that the ADA assessment is long-term project.
Right.
Okay. It's not tomorrow or next year. I'd like you to take a deeper look into the observation and to report back to us. I understand your logic of, okay, there's less homes to look at, so you're going to have a higher rate per home or per unit. I see that logic, but at the same time, you're spending less time there observing.
Well, I think square footage of area maintained comes into play, but I understand your point. We can talk later or however, but if I may add, the way the observation was established is obviously it's a full-time position for all 5 LMDs, and so we took an equitable approach to examining kind of the square footage, the landscape budget, and trying to balance that. Obviously, the fine-tooth hours per each LMD is gonna be a little flexible, and so as a budgeting exercise, we try to do it as fair and equitable on a per LMD basis, and so that's how we arrived at call it the bottom line number for that item for that LMD, and then of course the spread comes into play in creating the condition that is proposed.
Yeah, I think there's I don't know, some variables that could be looked at with that.
Understood.
And I would appreciate maybe just a little deeper dive into the observation to at least make sure that they're getting that value.
Absolutely.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we're going to go resolutions by the number.
So your choices are, the recommendation is by the number. If you move them all at once and they all passed unanimously, that works, but if that's not going to be the case, then you need to do them one at a time.
Okay. So I'll entertain a recommendation.
I make a motion to approve all 5.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, City Council staff communications. City staff have anything to report? Dana.
I just want to remind the community that the nomination period is open for City Council. We have 2 seats that are now open. You can contact my office or check the website for more information. Nomination period does continue until August 12th at 5 p.m. If you do have any questions, my door is always open. I'd love to walk through anybody through the process and let them know what the commitment is and what it entails for running for office in this city. So the election is in November 8th. So give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Chad.
Thank you, sir. I just want to let council know that, because I know there's interest in this, and we related to our cycle water, and trying to provide water at least to the Navy in a larger picture, we did submit our grant to the federal government regarding our request for a little over $600,000 to help support our project. So that is out there in the queue, and we expect to get results and determination whether we qualify in September. So I just want to let you know we are working on that in case you speak with folks at the Navy.
Thank you, Chad. City attorney? City manager? New city manager? City council? Ted?
Yeah, I just want to let you know, I think RJ did a good job, Bobby, back there, bringing this thing. And I'm going to bring this to our Veterans Committee meeting the first Monday in August so we can get this thing going. I think it's admirable that he's doing this, and we'll do it there. And Chad referenced that. We talked to Tony Winicki and also on the water. He's really looking forward to it. And we may look at, there's some ponds there on that may be porous, that may be able to help us as we go through this project if we need to work on getting a recharge of our basin. Because the lake itself isn't porous, as you well know, but there are adjacent ponds there that he was suggesting that we may look at that to help a recharge, take our water so we can recharge our aquifer. Just a thought. Okay, thank you.
Robin? Catherine?
Yeah, we've been doing our class and comp, and we've identified some positions that have been historically underfunded at the manager and director level. Can we have staff look at those and bring those back to us to adjust them as needed, please? Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, a couple of things. Thank you, Ted, for looking at RJ. I'm confused by this. Essentially what he was doing, the gentleman that spoke, is that apparently he got dinged and he's upset because there's a whole bunch of trails that need to be repaired or have impediments, pavers. Is that what he's showing us? I'm not sure.
Without discussing it in detail, it's simply he was cited for putting pavers in the trails, which is, as you know, is not approved.
Right.
And
So
he's
are
just questioning and pointing out there's a lot of other locations that have pavers and other things that he thinks should be also abated or removed, and doesn't seem he feels it's selective enforcement, which it's not.
Right, I understand. So some of this doesn't look like it's on the horse trail. Anyway, I'll call you and ask you about it tomorrow. And then two things. I'd like to have Laura Ralphton come, Andy, if we can, or have the water manager over at Western Municipal talk about water. Ted heard it, and it was frightening, actually. It was like, wow. And then if we could have them come, and then two, there are some more properties within Norco that I think that maybe we might want to look at as demo farms. And I'm wondering if we can put that on I guess we would have to put that on a closed session agenda, correct, John?
Sure.
Well, there's some properties that have come to my attention, Ted's attention, Robin's attention, that are for sale right now that might be good for demo farms, might be good for several uses that I'd like to discuss with council. I'm not sure how to put that on the agenda or how to have that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the nature of the discussion. If it's simply to have,
I want to buy them.
well, go ahead. You don't need to agendize that. If it's just a discussion about here are these properties, is there any interest, that you can do an open session. I mean, they're apparently for sale, right?
Right.
That's not a big deal. But if we're going to talk about here's what we might offer, and those real property negotiations, that's closed session stuff.
Okay, so could we put the discussion of certain properties on the next agenda? Is that possible? I mean, it's kind of weird we're going to discuss something we might want to buy publicly.
Well, you have to anyway. I mean, even if it's closed session, it has to appear as what the APN number is. So.
Okay, well, I'd like to have that discussion because I'd like to make council aware of them. I can't call anybody. The only one I've talked to a little bit about one of the properties is Robin. So can we agendize a discussion about purchasing properties for demo farm? There's several of them.
Second.
Not sure where you're going with this.
Please vote.
Well, that's what we're doing, to have a discussion.
I can call the vote. Yeah, it's fine. Councilmember Hoffman? Yes. Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Alleman?
Yeah, for clarification, a discussion about whether the city is interested in purchasing property for demo farms, or we're going to just...
Another
I mean, that's that kind of, Andy and I are still talking about that too. That depends on what you really want to accomplish by the discussion. If the discussion is these properties are available for sale and we're going to make an offer on this one and make an offer on this, that's real property negotiations. That's closed session, just listed as a closed session agenda item with the APN numbers, and Andy's the negotiator. And that's fine. If the discussion wasn't intended to get that far, then you can do that in open session.
This to me seems like this is like a policy direction that you're asking for.
Yeah, well, that was my original.
And then I'm having
do it in public.
some trouble about this. I mean, that's the way I'm kind of reading your comment, Kevin.
I think it depends on how you look at it,
Yeah.
and we're bound by the Brown Act, so we're trying to figure out a way that the
How to
council
talk
can have
about
a
it.
discussion
Yeah.
and not break the law.
Right.
So that's
it.
what we're trying to do, because essentially, if we have an idea that we want to purchase some land to make a farm with potentially a little small museum on it, and there is a property available right now, there's no way for us
To talk about it.
to do that.
And so if you guys
whether
don't
it's
want to do it, it's
closed
fine.
session
But
or
we're trying to
open
figure out a way to
session.
let everybody know that we have an idea.
So you're talking like a farm with a little museum on it?
Potentially.
Like a community center?
Potentially, but right now, so the other thing that's in the back of our mind, Kevin and I are liaisons with the EAT Center. They have a grant. They have got to get a demo farm in place or they're going to lose grant money. And so there's that dynamic of this as well.
Well, and if you know of these, I mean, how many parcels are there? Like 5? Is that what you said?
There's 4 of them.
4. That you can put that on closed session, real property negotiations, and talk about whether you don't want to make an offer on one or none or what the purpose is. That's okay. But if it's as Greg suggests that it's a policy issue, then that's an open session discussion.
And if time is of the essence, could we not have a special meeting before the next meeting if our policy direction needs to be discussed in terms of if that's the direction we want to go in?
Well, you can have a special meeting for, certainly for anything you want, but I don't know, is it urgent to need a special meeting? Or, I mean, that isn't my decision, it's obviously.
I don't feel the urgency, but I think I also have a question back to that, Robin, on, you're saying this has to do with the EAT program. Has that been presented to staff? You know, is there urgency with that?
We're still finalizing an MOU on that, which should be coming here in a bit. Our MOU with the EAT
I mean, I
Center.
think she said it very well. The issue we're having is we just want to be able to say, guys, what do you think? And we can't talk to you about it. We can't call you up.
No.
And all we're doing is just saying, what do you think? And if you think it's a bad idea or it's not a direction you want to go, well, then that's great. We've been able to at least tell you.
And the question is, as Greg suggested, is that the question is a philosophical question, or is it a question pertaining to specific properties? If it's pertaining to specific properties and you can discuss the potential uses and making offers, that you can do in closed session. That's not a problem. If it's a philosophical question about do we want to look around and see if we can find to be named later properties that we can develop in this way, then that's an open session.
I mean, however you want to do it. All I want to do is have the discussion, see if there's any interest on the part of council. That's really what I want to find out. There are some properties that are available.
Yeah, and if there's no identification of the properties, then that's an open session and it's a philosophical discussion.
Well, I would say then the discussion should be open session. If you just want to know how I'm feeling about it.
Well, the truth of the matter is we need a demo farm, maybe, and it just looks like that's the direction that we're going. And so we've been trying to figure out a way to try. I mean, again, part of this discussion would be.
Remember, this is agendized for tonight.
Yeah, no, and I know, and that's the problem, because there's a method to why we're trying to do
If you agendize it
this.
for the next meeting and the council says, yeah, we need to pursue acquiring a demonstration farm, staff put together something, then those properties and maybe others that you know are available, we can do that, and that's something that you can consider in closed session.
The current motion that's on the floor right now is discussion on properties for demo farms or other uses for possible purchase, bringing this back to the next city council meeting.
First discuss the concept.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And also why we're looking to do this. We're not just trying to create a farm, we're trying to protect.
Find that we have a property that is in escrow,
Yeah.
getting ready to close,
And that's what we have to discuss.
land that are now going to be put into use anytime. Potential for using that temporarily for this purpose.
And see, we want to be able to discuss that. I mean, all we're trying to do is bring it out so we can at least let council know what's going on and what some of the ideas that are floating around are. Yeah, so that's fine. And if it's the direction council wants to go. So do we need
So we're
to
still
amend?
voting?
Yes.
Yes, my vote is yes, thank you.
Mayor Newton,
Sure, I'd like to know what's going on.
Well, don't be so obstinate.
And that motion passed unanimously.
And then the last one, kidding aside, I don't know how to do this one either, but the California Alliance of Local Electors, what they're doing is they're looking to band together and file a suit, and their whole allegation is that the auditor found problems with the HCD methodology that inflated arena requirements by hundreds of thousands of housing users out of the state total 900,000. And I'm just wondering if that's something that we want to look at as a council to join a lawsuit. What they're basically saying is the auditor just reamed the HCD and said, you are trying to build 900,000 more houses than we actually need. And is that a lawsuit that we want to entertain, or is it something we want to look at? And again, I'm not sure how to make that. Do we just put that on council agenda, or?
Well, I mean, it's two different.
Or can staff just look at it, maybe give us a report?
One is, there is no lawsuit.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a lawsuit that HCD won, sadly. The court basically said that's discretionary with you, even though you used the wrong methodology. That was a suit that Mission Viejo and others filed. But if the question is, do you want staff or you to?
Yeah, I'd like to know what it's about.
What the status is and that kind of thing. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd like that.
But there isn't any lawsuit to join at this point, so there's.
How about just a staff report, Kevin?
Yeah, that's great. Just to find out what it is. So, I mean, July 7th, it says there's a lawsuit. So I'm not sure what that means. Maybe they're trying. Yeah, but I just like to find out if it's something that maybe we might want to get involved
That I
in.
presume is staff report. That's easy to contact that organization.
Yeah.
And if they say, oh yeah, we filed one on July the 7th, here it is, then you can talk about it in closed session whether or not you want to join.
I mean, I'm just curious. I don't know if I want to be on the HCD's radar doing something like this. And
Approved housing element first, right?
yeah, I'd just like to find out what it's about. Thank you. That's all I have.
There's nothing else. Thank you and good night.